Konoha, Reviving Senju, starting with Concubines. Author, Vortex. Chapter 301, The King's Second Return to Blade. Yes, I am Vasto Lord. I am the original Vasto Lord of Commando. The Emperor of Commando is me. How can I be content with the status quo? Oh. Baragan Luzenben. I am the King of Commando. Decompose. The Skeleton King. Accompanied by the incantation of Returning Edge, the white bone crown turned golden again, and the flesh on the body was also burned by the black flames. 10 golden chains symbolizing death came down from the sleeping chain above the Imperial Garden. Accompanied by a flame from hell, the axe of death reappeared in Baragan's hand. 20. However, what is different from before is that this time the axe of death actually carries the flames from hell. However, the difference was that the purple battle axe turned blood red. The original white skeleton also started to glow red at this moment. The mistake of disobeying the king will eventually turn into dust. Repent. God's response. Accompanied by a dazzling red light, the pitch-black flame on Baragan's body instantly turned red. A gate of hell rose slowly from the sky, and the soul-invading light from the underworld descended from the sky, directly landing on Baragan's position. Under the light of the underworld, Baragan's figure suddenly rose, and the multiple golden crowns also exploded instantly. The whole person exudes a mass of fiery blood-colored fluorescence. The whole person looks oppressive. Seeing the changes in Baragan, everyone present was amazed. What's happening here? On top of Returning Blade, there are actually 2 stages of Returning Blade? How come I've never heard of that? How did you do that? Does the Great Emperor have this ability? At this moment, Harem is not calm. Does this ability really exist? And Stark has obviously touched the threshold of the second stage of returning to the blade by himself. After his ability reaches a certain height, he will naturally spy on the higher level power. These 2 returning blades are different from ordinary returning blades. Ordinary returning edge is just the ability to regain life, while the second stage returning edge is more like an evolution. In this regard, Aizen also expressed his agreement. After all, it has been transformed by Hogyoku, so it is natural to know about evolution. Kurosaki Ikugo's Moonless at the time was also a dimensional level evolution, as was Aizen's Hogyoku evolution. Although the paths of evolution are different, they all evolve towards a higher dimension. Hearing that Stark can also touch the knowledge of evolution, Aizen can't help but be a little impressed. Stark is right. As long as the ability reaches a certain level, the conditions for evolution will naturally be triggered. It only needs to meet the level of leaping, and it can successfully evolve into a higher level of existence. Ordinary Hollow can evolve into Killian, and Killian can evolve into Ajuches, and eventually until it evolves into Vasto Lord. It's actually not the end. The second stage of returning to the blade should be an evolutionary path that belongs exclusively to Arrancar. For ordinary people, Shinigami is not a kind of evolution, it's just a different form. After hearing Aizen's explanation, everyone finally had an original understanding of the second stage return to the blade. Senju Kusanai asked casually at this time, Captain Aizen, in fact, Baragan is not the only Minos Grand who can return to the sword in 2 stages. Before he finished speaking, Aizen interrupted directly, and asked in a firm tone, Aluciola Cipher? Senju Kusanai nodded. It seems that you are really smart, because I mentioned his name first, so you guessed it? Aizen nodded. To a certain extent, it can be said that. Actually, I knew that Aluciola had hidden part of his strength, but I didn't know that this strength was a second stage return. It wasn't until I saw our once great commando perform a double return, that I realized it instantly. For Aizen's savvy, Senju Kusanai also expressed his appreciation. As expected of Captain Aizen, you know all this. At this moment, faint blue flames also began to erupt around Stark. That's Reiatsu exclusive to Stark. Harem was stunned in place. Coyote Stark, even you want to go back to the blade? Compared to Harem's surprise, Senju Kusanai's expression remained calm. Looking at the eyes of everyone in front of him, Stark's expression was a little bit worried, and the blooming blue spiritual flame also temporarily stopped its upward momentum. Once the 3.9 times return to the blade, I am afraid that my Reiatsu will have a more powerful breakthrough. You must know that because Reiatsu was too tyrannical back then, the other ghosts didn't dare to approach him at all. Loneliness is definitely the most terrifying way that can devour a soul. Now because of Aizen's Hogyoku, someone can finally become a partner with me. If the second stage does not return, my power will break through again. Will those former partners go away from me again? Thinking of this, Stark hesitated. Senju Kusanai next to him looked at Stark's hesitant expression, and guessed his concerns all at once. Chapter 302, Continuous Evolution. Coyote Stark, if you're worried about being too powerful, there's no need for it. Because in this world, there are many people who are stronger than you. While speaking, Senju Kusanai raised his eyebrows and looked up at the sky. The planetary devastation just cast is still hanging in the sky like the moon at this moment. That is because this full moon is enough to prove the power of Senju Starry Night. Stark seemed to realize this too, so with a smile on the corner of his mouth, he sighed. It seems that I really worry too much. In this case, then, roar. 2 wolves howling at the moon. Accompanied by a brand new returning spell, the blue light beams on and off Stark's body instantly absorbed into his body. A dazzling light flashed, and Stark, whose whole body was covered with blue light armor, appeared in front of everyone. Seeing the changes in Star 26 in front of her, Yuhabach Sinai was also a little emotional. No wonder Star can steal the title of the first espada in Baragon. It has to be said that this suffocatingly powerful Ryatsu is really rare, and the state after the second stage of returning to the blade is even comparable to the current Aizen. However, Senju Sinai is not optimistic about this straightforward ability. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Senju Sinai bypassed Stark and Harable, and instead came to the 7th, 8th, and 9th espada. You must know that the numbers of espadas are divided according to their strength. In theory, the 7th, 8th, and 9th espadas should be the weakest existence among espadas. How? Do you want to become stronger? Senju Sinai asked confidently. We must know that Senju Sinai's strength even exceeds Aizen. He is absolutely capable of making everyone stronger. Hearing that he can become stronger, Zomaru Urox was the first to hold back. Zomaru Urox swears allegiance to Lord Senju. Senju Sinai heard the words, but just smiled in the direction of Zomaru Urox. My subordinates don't raise waste, and if they want to follow me, they must be strong first. While speaking, Senju Sinai directly changed Ligua Rinnegan's mode. The illusion that belongs to Ligua Rinnegan is directly displayed. In the next second, Zomaru Urox's eyes were a little dizzy, and then it was as if he remembered something. Calm down. Cursed Ice Sanger. Accompanied by the liberation speech of Returning Edge, Zomaru Urox turned into a pink ball, which is his Curse Ice Sanger state. In this state mode, you can retract your body into the pumpkin-shaped body of the lower body to avoid attacks, and there are even skull-shaped bones around it for reinforcement, which can be described as a sufficient defense. The entire mantra Ice Sanger state looks more like a pink bud that is about to bloom. Then, the buds bloom and the pink Ryatsu pours out. Zomaru also took advantage of the trend and turned into the return to blade state. However, the strange thing is that Zomaru at this moment actually has a pair of Rinnegan. Senju Sinai saw this and Zomaru nodded in relief. It seems to be just like what I thought. Although Zomaru's strength is mediocre, he can still use Rinnegan's illusion to forcibly break through to the second stage of returning to the blade. Without waiting for Senju Sinai to sigh with emotion, Zomaru with an extra pair of Rinnegans twisted his head in an instant. Heck! At the same time, the pumpkin-shaped body under its feet also began to spin rapidly. It didn't take long for Zomaru to form a pink oval like a silkworm chrysalis. After breaking out of the cocoon and becoming a butterfly, 2 pairs of butterfly wings grew from behind Zomaru. Is this Zomaru's second return blade? So it doesn't seem so disgusting. Neliel had seen Zomaru's returning blade before, and she almost made her cry. Unexpectedly, the effect of the second stage of returning to the blade is surprisingly good. After sighing, Zomaru also opened his eyes. Feeling the changes in herself, Zomaru became very excited. Second stage return to the blade. It's really a double return. Unexpectedly, Zomaru Urox, also made a second return. This ability is comparable to that of Vast Lord. I did it. 593. Ha 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 ha. After laughing out loud, Zomaru fell to the ground and knelt in front of Senju Sinai. Master Senju, Zomaru Urox, will be your most loyal servant from now on. After seeing the changes in Zomaru, Aranero Middle who was made of greed, couldn't hold back. Master Senju, Aranero Aeruri is also willing to serve you. As long as you give me strength, Aranero Aeruri, will definitely be your most capable subordinate. Hearing Aranero Aeruri's voice, Senju Sinai shifted his gaze, just in time to see the greedy expression on Aranero Aeruri's face. However, Senju Starry Night does not feel disgusted by this. Only greedy people are the most reliable, because dealing with this kind of person can be bought through sufficient economic benefits. This kind of relationship is the most reliable only if it is based on the involvement of economic interests. Chapter 303. Do you still remember Yuhabach? Since you have said so, then I, Senju Sinai, will reluctantly accept you. As soon as the words fell, Senju Sinai did the same, using Ligua Rinnegan's illusion to directly hypnosis Aranero Middle subconscious. By forcibly issuing evolutionary instructions, Aranero Middle exploded with extremely strong explosive power in the illusion. Aranero Aeruri. It's finally going to evolve. You must know that the body of Aranero Middle is just the most trashy subordinate Minos Grand Killian. At the same time, he is also the only espada among the espadas who went directly from Killian to Arrancar. Therefore, Aranero Aeruri who is Killian is the most eager to evolve. Eat him up. Let's hand it over. Purple light flashed, and Aranero Aeruri's body began to grow rapidly, and finally the lower body turned into a giant octopus-like appearance. Senju Sinai looked at Uronilo in front of him, and couldn't help frowning. I have to say that this Uronilo's knife form is really disgusting. You must know that the more fully evolved the Minos Grand is, the more advanced the level is, the closer it is to humans. Uronilo, who is Killian, is nothing more than the lowest level Minos Grand, and the returned blade form seems to have completely lost its human form. Starting from this form, What kind of effect will it be to perform the second stage return to the blade? Senju Kusanai smiled and cast the illusion of 6 paths Rinnegan, forcing hypnosis to let it start to evolve. As if he felt the call of some kind of power in his body, Yaronilo also screamed in pain. After a short moment, the purple light on Yaronilo's body bloomed instantly, and the tentacles in the shape of an octopus withered and fell off instantly, replaced by a brand new body. As the lowest level of Menno's Grand Espada with the ugliest appearance, Yaronilo is most ashamed of his octopus-like body. So even after returning to the blade, Yaronilo faced everyone with the human image he had swallowed. Now after the second stage of the evolution of returning to the blade, a lonely road finally has a human form. Evolution. This is evolution. It feels so cool. It can grow to its current form through devouring step by step, and has also evolved the heaven-defying ability of devouring growth. From a certain point of view, isn't this a kind of strength? Seeing that those inferior espadas who are not as strong as him have already obtained the second evolution plan. Master Senju. They have all evolved, and I, Grimmjow, am willing to serve Senju-sama. Hearing this, Senju Kusanai seems to have noticed the existence of Grimmjow, but his expression is still indifferent and not interested. You must know that in the Millennium Bloody Battle, it is basically a battle of some rules. As a power-type espada, Grimmjow can only play a very limited role, and its role is no different from a sword. It can only be used for simple slashing, but it can't cause a substantial blow to the group of guards. Forget it, even a sword needs to be sharpened to be useful. With this in mind, Senju Starry Knight followed suit. After returning to the blade, the form of the Leopard King has directly evolved into the Mecha Leopard King, wearing a faint blue Ryatsu armor that is very impressive. The whole thing looks like a ghost panther from hell. Until here, Senju's starry eyes glanced at Aizen. Although other Rankars can also achieve the effect of returning to the blade at the second stage, the improvement in ability is very small, and there is no need for me to do it myself. Vertical Bar Aizen, I will leave the rest to you. If you want to fight against the Invisible Empire, the power of Commando is indispensable. And, Senju Starry Knight wants more than just defeating the Invisible Empire. Although the Soul Society is an ally now, it is also based on the current situation. If Yuhabach is wiped out, there is no guarantee that he will not turn his guns around. Yamamoto Genryuzai is a 1,000-year-old fox, so it is natural to be on guard. Facing Senju Starry Knight's instructions, Aizen expressed that he didn't quite understand. Master Senju, your strength is extraordinary, so there is no need to be so eager for success. These Arrancar's abilities are limited, and we just need to wait for them to evolve on their own. Senju Kusanai shook his head. The reason why I ordered this is because, Kinyuazo, has my considerations, you just need to do it. Although Aizen still didn't understand why, he nodded his head. Master Senju, I understand. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, Senju Kusanai called Aizen suddenly. I know you can't figure it out now, but you probably haven't forgotten the bloody battle 1,000 years ago, right? Hearing Senju Starry Knight's question, Aizen was taken aback for a moment, and then was shocked. Yuhabach. You must know that Yuhabach's name exists like a nightmare in the entire Soul Society. Could it be that Yuhabach is making a comeback? Seeing Aizen is easy to understand, and Senju Starry Knight also saves a lot of time in explaining. Chapter 304, Miss Orihime, you are too hard. After hearing the name Yuhabach, Aizen was still not calm. Thanks to Senju-sama's reminder, this prevented Yuhabach from taking advantage of the fisherman. Seeing the rejoicing expression on Aizen's face, Senju Kusanai couldn't help reminding again, today's Yuhabach is no longer the same as it was 1,000 years ago. You must know that it is not only Yuhabach alone, but also his invisible empire that is sweeping this time. The invisible empire? Aizen's expression was full of doubts. It was the first time he heard the name. Senju Starry Knight explained. The Invisible Empire is a country established after the defeat of Yuhabach thousands of years ago. After thousands of years of forbearance and development, it has achieved a considerable scale at this moment. With Senju Kusanai's explanation, although Aizen understood the origin of the Invisible Empire, he still couldn't imagine its strength. People who can make Senju Starry Knight so terrifying should also be three-pointed, which shows that the Invisible Empire is indeed 807 scary. Master Senju, I understand. I will definitely make good use of the power of Hogyoku, and try to make these Arrancar's strength to a higher level. Seeing Aizen's attitude, Senju Kusanai nodded in satisfaction. It seems that this time I can go to this world with peace of mind. Hearing that he could return to reality, Orihime was very excited. Brother Senju, can we finally return to reality? Senju Kusanai nodded. Of course, not only us, but even your friends can go back together. Hearing that he and his friends could go back, Orihime was even happier, and jumped directly in front of Senju Kusanai and hugged him hard. Miss Orihime, you are too hard. Fortunately, it was soft, otherwise the impact could have been a broken bone, to say the least. But even though it is soft, Grandpa is full of oppression, which makes JFB Kusanai's blood soaring and almost breathless. When they were about to say goodbye, Senju Kusanai looked back at Nelliel. After feeling Senju Starry Knight's gaze, Nelly's expression swelled a little. I didn't expect Nelly to have such a twitchy little woman's posture, which is a bit interesting. Miss Nilu, why do you have such an expression? Could it be that you don't want me to leave? Nelly seemed to have seen through her thoughts. She bit her lips lightly and was speechless. But at this moment, Senju Kusanai smiled even more happily. I didn't expect Miss Nilu to miss me so much. How about going to this world with me? When I heard that I could return to the present world with Senju Star Yoruichi, Niriel burst into tears. Really? Can I really return to the present world with you? Happiness came too suddenly, which made people a little uneasy. Nelly even suspected that she was hallucinating. However, Senju Kusanai directly reached out and touched Nelly's little head. Because your mask was broken before and degenerated to adjuches, it is a bit sloppy to perform a second return. I originally planned to take you back to the present world for treatment, and then guide you to perform the second stage of returning to the blade. Hearing what Senju Kusanai said, Nelly was so happy that she almost jumped up. Master Senju, you are so kind. After explaining the work here, Senju Kusanai directly took Orihime and Nelly back to Karakura town in the present world. Coming to this modern city, Senju Starry Night is really a bit uncomfortable. Looking at the traffic here, although it is not as developed as it was before crossing, it is definitely much better than in Konoha village. You don't have a place to live yet, do you? Why don't you stay at my house first? Orihime invited Senju Starry Night and Nelly very warmly, and the latter readily agreed. A group of 3 came to Orihime's house. Looking at the empty and dusty room, Nelly expressed doubts. Inu, don't you live with your family? Nelly asked casually, but Orihime remained silent with a complex expression. In this regard, Senju Starry Night actually knows some reasons. In fact, Orihime originally had an older brother named Inuhao. Because of the perennial domestic violence of his parents, 18-year-old Inuhao escaped from his original family with Orihime. Since then, he has depended on each other and raised Orihime. The relationship between the two is very deep, but one night not long ago, Inuhao unfortunately had a traffic accident. After death, Inuhao missed his sister Orihime too much, so he refused to step into reincarnation. In the end, there was a void in his heart, and he became a void of wandering time. In the end, although with the help of Yakugo and the others, his brother was successfully transferred to the Soul Society, Orihime became an orphan. Looking at Orihime's lonely expression, Niriel instantly understood the sadness and showed sympathy. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you unhappy. Senju Starry Night also took advantage of the opportunity to wipe away the tears from the corners of Orihime's eyes. Yeah, let's have a nice chat. Chapter 305, You Have Something to Hide from Me. After several people entered the room, they made a simple dinner. Nelly looked at a table of delicious meals. Her face was full of happiness. I haven't eaten with my family for a long time, and I really miss this feeling. While talking, he put a piece of grilled eel on a table into his mouth, and couldn't help showing a very intoxicated expression. Yeah, Inu, your cooking skills are really good. This is the best unagi rice I've ever had. After Nelly's praise, Senju Kusanai also picked up a piece of grilled eel and put it in his mouth. He couldn't help but nodded in praise. Miss Orihime's cooking skills are really good. The meat is tender and refreshing, and the grill is just right. Whoever takes you home will be really lucky. With Senju Starry Night's praise, Orihime's expression instantly became very shy, and her originally white and tender face instantly turned red. Actually, in fact, I have always been very introverted. I don't dare to talk to others when I go to school. I don't even have friends, let alone find a boyfriend. The image of Kurosaki Yakugo popped up in Orihime's mind, but was instantly replaced by Senju Starry Night. Originally, she thought that the feeling she had for Kurosaki Yakugo was just liking, but at this moment she realized she was wrong after seeing Senju Starry Night. After all, friendship and love are two completely different things. But after all, I just went to the Soul Society with Kurosaki Yakugo, and now if I move on so quickly, will it seem a bit immodest? Thinking of this, Orihime's expression became more and more awkward. However, Senju Kusanai also noticed the change of Orihime at this moment. Seeing Orihime's twisted face, Senju Kusanai smiled and comforted. Actually, you don't have to be so shy at all. People always have the right to pursue what they like. In the past, you may not have understood your own cognition, but now that you recognize your mistakes, you can naturally correct them yourself. While still young, pursue what you like boldly. This, should it be called bravery? Nelly on the side only frowned. This style absolutely beats Aizen when it comes to outfitting B. This proper pure speech technique is just to fool a little girl, who would be fooled by a mature woman. Nelly's face changed color slightly, but Senju Kusanai put his hand on Nelly's shoulder and joked, Xiao Nilujiang should have a deep understanding of what I said, right? Senju Kusanai's words made Nelly stunned for a moment, as if she didn't react. Seeing Nelly's cute face, Senju Kusanai couldn't help reminding, remember when you were in Commando? I asked you a question once. With a reminder from Senju Starry Night, Nelly reacted instantly. However, Orihime on the side didn't know what happened, and asked Baekhyunmin Kusanai curiously, problem? What problem are you talking about? Hearing Orihime's question, Neriel's expression became even more awkward. However, before Nililu changed the subject, Renminsk Sinai said directly, "Actually, it's nothing. It's nothing more than asking whether the child of a female centaur will be in the belly of a man or a horse." When Senju Sinai spoke, the cloud was calm and breezy, but Neliel's pretty face was flushed. Orihime seemed to notice Neliel's shyness, and asked with a puzzled look, "Ask for flowers. What's wrong with Sister Nilu? Is there any meaning to this question? It doesn't make much sense. The main reason is that it is better to do an experiment in reality than to study this problem." After hearing the word experiment, Niluilu's face turned even redder, because this is the secret between her and Senju Starry Night, and also the agreement between them. However, Orihime couldn't understand it all. "What question? What experiment? What are you talking about?" Facing Orihime's question, Neriel naturally had no way to answer, so she could only bow her head in silence. 0. However, Senju Sinai is still full of indifference, casually said, "Actually, it's nothing. It's nothing more than an experiment that was set before. Now that time is free, this experiment can be done slowly, and it doesn't matter if you do it repeatedly." While speaking, Senju Sinai glanced in the direction of Neliel. The latter lowered his head and asked in a very low voice, "Then if this is the case, do I have to enter the return state to proceed?" As a Menos Grand who has been with Commando all year round, although she is more open to this kind of thing than ordinary people, she is already a woman. Turning into a half-antelope state is somewhat braided. But Senju Sinai didn't care about it. "It doesn't matter even if you return to the blade. After all, that's what you really look like. I want to feel the real you." Looking at the two people beside him who seemed to be playing charades, Orihime was in a daze. Although he hid some little secrets in private, he just couldn't understand what the two of them meant. "You must have something to hide from me." Chapter 306, Bathing Together. Even if Orihime reacts a little longer, he can guess a little meaning by seeing the expressions of the two. Just as he was about to continue asking, there was a knock on the door. Boom boom boom. "Is Inu at home?" The voice outside the door was particularly hearty. It was a girl's voice. After hearing the voice, Orihime's expression suddenly became very excited. "Student Longui, is that you? Long time no see, I miss you so much." After opening the door, Orihime hugged a dragon wearing a school uniform excitedly, facing such an enthusiastic Orihime. Long 233 Gui's expression was slightly awkward. "I haven't seen you for 2 days, so you can't be so enthusiastic." Although only 2 days have passed, too many things have happened in these 2 days. In just 2 days, there were too many partings between life and death, and every difficulty seemed to be a baptism from desperation to life. "Student Longui, it's great to see you. I'm afraid I'll never see you again." Longui didn't know what happened at all. Hearing Orihime's sudden confession, he was really at a loss. Classmate Inu, I just look a bit neutral, but in fact I still like boys." While talking, Longui finally noticed Senju Sinai. "Wow." "Classmate Inu, are there any guests at your house?" Originally, Longui was a carefree tomboy, but after seeing Senju Sinai, he somehow became shy like a little girl. Seeing Longui like this, Orihime couldn't help but make a joke. "I didn't expect our classmate Longui to be shy. This is really rare, haha." In fact, Longui himself was sick and didn't realize that he was shy just now, but at the moment he was teased by Orihime, his face became even more rosy. Neliel on the side felt the harmonious atmosphere in the room, and felt extremely relieved. You must know that this kind of life was what she most wanted to have during her lifetime. Unexpectedly, so many years after his death, even after he has become the highest level Menos Grand, he can still realize such a wish. You must know that there are only a few Vasto Lords in Commando. As such a Vasto Lord, Neliel, the others dare not approach her. The reason why he was able to integrate into such an atmosphere at such an opportunity was all because of Kianki and Starry Night. Thinking of this, Neliel's gaze towards Senju Sinai became a little more complicated. "Although I vaguely felt a hint of admiration, but I dodged like hesitation and fear in my heart." At this time, Longui just noticed the existence of Neliel. "Wow, this sister is so beautiful." Just in time, we are about to have an orientation ceremony, and 2 friends of Inu's classmate can also go together. While talking, Longui went directly to catch Orihime's eye. "Student Longui, please wait a moment, I have to take a shower and change my clothes first." Orihime, who has just returned to Karakura town, has not had time to change her clothes. The clothes she is wearing now are dirty and torn, with holes in several places on her body. Longui only noticed what Orihime was wearing at this time. Not only Orihime, but even Neliel's body is dirty and torn. "Student Inu, you were fighting just now, weren't you? Why are the clothes so torn?" The fight was real, and it was a big scene that she could never have imagined. Of course, there was no way to explain these experiences to Longui in detail. "Sister Nilu, your clothes are also torn, why don't we wash them together?" Orihime excitedly pulled Neriel into the bathroom. Longui, who was waiting outside, could only spend time with Senju Sinai alone. Longui himself didn't know why, but he really felt shy. A little heart was beating wildly. In the bathroom inside, Due to the small space, Nalil and Orihime were forced to squeeze together. Since both of them were of a particularly plump figure, they accidentally rubbed against each other while taking a bath. Coupled with the warm shower, there is a mist that fills the room. The atmosphere became more and more weird. Sure enough, I'm still not used to washing with others. Nelly poked her chest out, afraid of touching Orihime again. Because of the previous touch, she is acting weird now. At the same time, Orihime is also very restrained with 1.2 points. Longui, who was waiting outside, was a little anxious. Why did it take so long to take a shower? At this moment, an exclamation came from inside. Ah! With Orihime's scream, Senju Kusanai directly opened the door of the bathroom. But at this moment, in addition to the two curvaceous, fresh and fair figures in the cloud and mist, there is actually a girl with green hair lying on the ground. What I have to say is that the girl lying on the ground turned out to be naked. Senju Star Yoruichi recognized the person's identity at a glance. 9 Articles of Hope. Chapter 307. Green-haired artificial girl. You must know that when Kujo Wangmai first appeared on the stage, he was indeed naked. However, in the picture at this moment, the three people have such an image at the same time, and Senju Kusanai can't stand it. Now Senju Kusanai can finally understand how happy King Zu was in the wine pool and meat forest. As if feeling the scorching gaze of Senju's starry night, Orihime immediately tore off the bath towel and wrapped it around his body. At this moment, Longui also held 2 towels and handed them to Niluilu and Juo Wangshi. Under the contemptuous eyes of the women, Senju Kusanai could only avoid it temporarily. After a short moment, Orihime and Nilil finally finished their shower, changed their clothes, and came out of the bathroom. At this moment, Kujo Nozomi is also temporarily wearing Orihime's clothes. Although not as big as Orihime's bust, the clothes can still be worn. Looking at Nozomi Kujo, Senju Kusanai smiled meaningfully. 30. When I saw it back then, due to the limited picture, Kujo Wangshi's posture happened to block the career line with his hands. Seeing it with his own eyes at this moment, Senju Kusanai can only sigh with emotion that the future is boundless. But after a while, Senju Kusanai also figured out the current situation. Because he was messing with the Soul Society, he later unified Commando and suppressed Aizen. This caused a huge change in the timeline. Inabakagera's Uo and Kujo Nomomi unexpectedly appeared ahead of schedule. Presumably, he also took the opportunity to copy the captain while Aizen was making troubles. The reason why Kujo Wangshi can appear here shows that something must have happened to the Soul Society. Sigh. This Soul Society is really worrying. Senju Starry Night is a bit tired. Yuhabach must be targeted, because this is the power to destroy the 3 realms. Senju Kusanai doesn't want to be buried with the 3 realms and become a victim of Yuhabach. In order to avoid these, countermeasures must be implemented. Originally, the current plan was getting closer and closer to the goal, but I didn't expect that before that there would be side effects. Miss Juo Wangshi, although I sympathize with your experience, there are some things I must remind you. Hearing the ins and outs of Senju Kusanai's words, he seemed to know this green-haired young lady. Both Orihime and Nilil were surprised. Even Koji Kujo didn't think of it. You know my name? Do you really know me? Looking at Nozomi Kujo with a blank face in front of him, Senju Kusanai couldn't help laughing. Your identity is indeed mysterious, but it doesn't bother me. The reason why you appear in this world is nothing more than to avoid Inabakagera's Uo. But you should understand that the connection between the two of you is very close, and you have your own perception in the dark. No matter where you fled to the ends of the earth, he can use this connection to track your location. That's why I say, dodging is useless. After Senju Kusanai finished speaking, the expressions of Orihime and Nirielu did not change significantly, and they were so confused that they didn't know what happened. However, Kujo Wangshi was shocked. Unexpectedly, the other party could not only call out his name, but also know his connection with Inabakagera's Uo. Not only that, Senju Kusanai in front of him seems to know all his secrets. How can this be? You? Who the hell are you? Kujo Wangshi frowned, but his mind was in a panic. Senju Kusanai noticed Kujo Nozomi's uneasiness, showed a slight smile, and comforted. Don't be so nervous, I don't have any malice towards you, it's just a suggestion to you. You should know about Inabakagera's Uo's ambitions. If you are captured by him, he will definitely force you to fit together. When they heard that they were being forced to fit together, Orihime and Nilulu looked contemptuous. It's disgusting, boy. How can you force the young lady to fit together? At this time, Orihime gave an assist in a timely manner. Anyway, we have to fit together, so it's better to fit together with Senju. Senju Kusanai was taken aback when he heard the words. 007. This Orihime, I really didn't train in vain before. The critical moment is really toward my own people. Miss Orihime, you may have misunderstood. The fit I'm talking about is not the one you think. Then which one am I thinking of? This time, Senju Kusanai couldn't ask this question at all. Whatever. Anyway, Miss Ju Xiao, this is a rare opportunity for you. The tone was caught and fit by Inabakagera's Uo. It's better to strike first, and absorb his energy completely before everything can be saved. Hearing Senju Kusanai's suggestion, Kujo Nozomi's expression became a little confused again. You must know that Inabakagera's Uo's strength is much stronger than mine, and it is basically impossible to swallow Invincible Zuo's power. In the final analysis, it is not because of lack of self-confidence. You don't have to worry about this at all. I have a way to make you devour Shadow Wolf Zuo. In order to prepare for the next Millennium War, Senju Starry Night naturally does not allow people like Invincible Zuo to make trouble. Chapter 308, Liluka, I allow you to come in. Anyway, this hidden danger has to be dealt with. Why not take advantage of the opportunity to sell personal affection? Let's stop here first. Isn't Longui going to take us to the party? Hearing Senju Starry Night's reminder, Longui almost jumped up. That's right. I'm here to invite you to the party. Since everyone has taken a bath now, why don't we go yet? Senju Kusanai smiled playfully. Under the leadership of Longui, Senju Star Yoruichi and others came to a courtyard that looked very old, and the architectural style seemed to be a Western style 100 years ago. I didn't expect Karakura Town to have such an ancient building. While everyone was still amazed, the front door opened, and a little girl in a maid outfit with red double ponytails walked out. Welcome to my dollhouse. I allow you to come in. Seeing this little red-haired Lilai with twin ponytails, 10 minutes Kusanai's eyes lit up. Unexpectedly, this person turned out to be Liluka, the poisonous peak. At this time, Longui came up. You don't know each other, do you? Let me introduce. This is our new transfer student Liluka. This time the party is mainly a welcome party. It is organized by Liluka. It's Liluka. Senju Kusanai smiled playfully towards Liluka's position. At this moment, Liluka, the poisonous peak, had a smirk on her face, and coupled with the liberation language just said, Senju Kusanai felt that this room was not simple. So I asked classmate Xiang Longyi, student Longyi, did Liluka ask you to find someone who uses Orihime? Longyi nodded. That's right. Classmate Liluka is really enthusiastic. Senju Kusanai looked helpless looking at Longui who didn't know why. What an innocent child. The identity of this double-tailed maid, Lolita, must be a member of Execution, and her ability is a dollhouse. The sentence she just invited was her incantation for the full manifestation. Obviously, at this moment, the room behind her must have been enhanced by the dollhouse's full manifestation ability. Since she came to Karakura Town on a temporary basis, Neliel didn't know Inu Orihime at first. It can be said that the arrival of Senju Starry Night and Neliel was an accident. From this point of view, the reason why Liluka held this party should be Inu Orihime. Although he saw through Liluka's purpose, Senju Kusanai still decided to stand still and wait to see what Liluka's plan is. Longyi, Inu, are these people your friends too? Since you're here, why don't you all come in and play? I allow you to come in. After discovering Senju Kusanai's hesitation, Liluka's expression became more anxious. He almost had the 4 characters I want to cheat you engraved on his forehead. I have to say, after all, this little girl Liluka is still a little impatient. But Senju Kusanai still entered Liluka's room. Looking at all kinds of cute dolls inside, I was very happy to go to Orihime and the 3 of them. Student Liluka, why are your dolls so cute? Wow, look at how cute this fluffy kitten is. Yeah, it looks like it's real. Seeing the fluffy kitten dolls, Inu Orihime and Nelilu instantly turned into little girls. However, Senju Kusanai knew in his heart that this kitten should be a real kitten. It's just that Liluka, the poisonous peak, turned it into a doll using the end in body technique. Except for the kitten, this dollhouse is full of all kinds of small dolls. You know, each of these dolls is a living life. This poisonous peak Liluka's mentality is indeed poisonous. As if she had noticed Senju Kusanai's strange gaze, poison peak Liluka approached Senju Kusanai with a smirk on her face, and said with a sinister smile, this little brother is so handsome, he is my favorite type. With those eager eyes, it wasn't Hoshi Yoruichi who guessed Liluka's thoughts all of a sudden. You still like Inu Orihime? Don't like me? You know that I am a person who can't be idle. If you turn me into a motionless doll, then I will go crazy. As soon as Senju Kusanai finished speaking, Life-ing Liluka's expression suddenly changed. You actually know my full manifestation ability. Since you know what I'm capable of, why did you enter my dollhouse? Wangs, facing Liluka's puzzlement. The indifference of facing Yoruichi's face. Why can't I go in? Didn't you let me in? Seeing Senju Kusanai with a cute face, Poison Peak Liluka almost went crazy. You know that's not what I mean. Since you know my full manifestation ability, why do you still come in? Seeing that Liluka was about to go crazy, Senju Kusanai naturally didn't want to joke anymore. But instead of answering, he asked instead, why didn't I dare to come in? Since this is your ability to fully manifest, there is always a way to crack it. As long as I can find a way to solve it, or directly order you to help me solve it, won't the problem be solved? Chapter 309, Sui-Feng. Another artificial girl. Seeing Senju Kusanai's natural expression, Liluka almost went crazy. If you order me to untie it, will I obey your order? Who do you think I am? I like listening to you so much. Liluka was almost furious. However, Senju Kusanai does not have the same knowledge as her. In front of Six Paths Rinnegan's illusion, Liluka had no resistance at all. However, Senju Kusanai didn't take Liluka seriously. Seeing the stubbornness of this little girl, Senju Kusanai couldn't help but want to tease her. Student Liluka, I was just talking casually. Seeing that you are in such a hurry, You must have been hit by me, right? Aren't you just a little maid who likes to follow other people's orders? Liluka herself is indeed wearing a maid outfit, but the reason why she likes it is because she thinks it looks beautiful. Of course, she naturally knows that she is wearing a maid costume. When I'm bored, I have seen those who like to play master and servant will often do some speechless tasks in 630. Even, she herself once imagined that if her little maid had such a master, and the master ordered herself to do embarrassing tasks, will she obey her master's orders? Every time she thinks about it, she always feels ashamed. So in the past, she had been avoiding this question on purpose, but at this moment, she was actually mentioned by Senju Kusanai. Seeing the panicked Liluka, Senju Kusanai didn't intend to stop here. Instead, he approached Liluka step by step, looked at the doll next to him and asked, "In this dollhouse of yours, there was such a little doll that was very similar to you overnight. Does this little doll represent yourself?" While talking, Senju Kusanai touched the little doll's body. At the same time, Liluka's legs went limp, and her face turned red as hell. "This doll is mine. You are not allowed to play with it." Senju Kusanai grabbed the doll and was about to play with it carefully, but Liluka, the poisonous beak, snatched it away from the doctor. "It seems that this doll is really Liluka's doll. You must know that the doll and the main body have a spiritual connection." Liluka has always had her current thoughts because of her loneliness when she was a child. As long as they can be by each other's side, it doesn't matter if they become dolls as well. However, today she really did not expect that this Senju Kusanai not only knew her abilities, but also found her own doll in the first place. What a nuisance. Liluka hugged the doll and stared solemnly at Senju Starry Night in front of her. "Who the hell are you?" Facing Liluka's questioning again, Senju Kusanai just smiled lightly and said, "I'm here to help you." Before the words fell, Senju Kusanai's expression seemed to have become extremely dignified, and a strong sense of killing began to burst out from all over his body. Liluka, who was the closest, trembled involuntarily under such momentum. "What kind of momentum is this? Even my strength can feel." Dabj, afraid? You must know that Liluka's strength ranks third in execution. But even so, he couldn't even resist Senju Kusanai's unknowing aura. This kind of strength is too terrifying. However, before he had time to feel emotional, Senju Kusanai directly looked up at the darkness not far away, and said leisurely, "Since you're here, why don't you come in and sit down?" As soon as Senju Kusanai said this, everyone looked incredible. "Are we being watched? With my ability, I can't even perceive the existence of the enemy." Nelia also expressed her shock. You must know that her perception ability is also very strong. I didn't expect her reaction to be so slow this time. Everyone looked at Yin Yang not far away with their eyes seeking proof, and sure enough, a figure walked out slowly. "Sui-Feng?" Senju Kusanai called out subconsciously, but things didn't seem to be that simple. You must know that Sui-Feng is the captain of the 2nd Division of the 13th Division of Jingalingting Court, responsible for covert operations and assassinations. In theory, Sui-Feng, the captain of the assassination force, shouldn't be in Karakura town. However, the reason why she appeared here was very clear. Kujo Wangshi, the Sui-Feng in front of him is probably the spirit skeleton made by Inaba Keijiroza. Unexpectedly, this Inaba Keijiroza is really capable, and the Sui-Feng produced is exactly like a real person. It's too realistic. Senju Kusanai couldn't help but sigh with emotion. However, it is too early to say that it is realistic. After all, I haven't seen it with my own eyes. Thinking of this, Senju Kusanai looked at Sui-Feng with a smile. "Captain Sui-Feng, why are you so free to hang out in Karakura town today?" After discovering the voice of Senju Starry Night, Sui-Feng's expression is very disdainful. "I think you are asking the question knowingly. Hand over the 9 articles of Wangshi, and I will spare you from death." Chapter 310, Can you sacrifice everything for the mission? When Sui-Feng spoke, his tone was very cold, and the murderous intent emanating from his body made the people around him shudder even more. Nelliel looked at Sui-Feng in front of her with a solemn expression, and couldn't help but sigh. Is this Ryatsu at the captain's level? It's really tyrannical. Even Liluka, the poisonous peak, couldn't help admiring. What a strong killing intent. In the eyes of everyone, Sui-Feng's footsteps stopped outside the door of the doll's house. However, at this moment, Zixinai was very calm in the face of Sui-Feng's killing intent. Sui-Feng couldn't help but contemptuously said, "Is it because of the limitation of this full manifestation technique that you blatantly despise me? Do you think I can't kill you if I can't get into this room?" Although Sui-Feng's Shikaisa's Yumbuchi is a melee weapon, Jakuho Raikoban after Shin Bankai is definitely a long-range weapon that is known for its lethality. Senju Kusanai naturally knew Sui-Feng's ultimate move, but his expression was still calm and he said, "Captain Sui-Feng, if you want to say that your Jakuho Raikoban can use a one-hit kill effect, then I advise you to save it. If I remember correctly, Inaba Keijirozu's order should be for you to capture Kujo Nozomi alive, right?" Senju Kusanai first talked about the effect of Sui-Feng Bankai in a calm manner, and then even mentioned the purpose of her trip. When Senju Kusanai said this, Sui-Feng's momentum suddenly sank. If you want to use this to threaten me, then you have miscalculated." "That's right. Inaba Rosa really asked me to go back with the live Kujo Momo. However, you have to know that when performing tasks, it is inevitable that there will be some emergencies. For example, Senju seats you 3 times, which is the biggest emergency. In order to solve this unexpected situation, it is reasonable to use some unconventional means. While Sui-Feng was speaking, the killing intent on his body had burst to the strongest state. The extremely powerful killing intent made people feel cold and almost suffocated. At this moment, Senju Kusanai still didn't care, just smiled lightly and said, "If I remember correctly, Captain Sui-Feng's second division of Jingalingting should be a secret army responsible for assassinations, right? When you are performing tasks, do you also vent your killing intent at will?" Senju Kusanai's soul asked. Sui-Feng didn't know how to answer. As a professional covert operation force, Sui-Feng naturally knew Zhang Feng. Before Sui-Feng could speak, Senju Kusanai continued, "The reason why Captain Sui-Feng erupted with such a strong killing intent is probably because he welcomed us, right? Including Chikuho Raikoban just mentioned, it's nothing more than a bluff. Captain Sui-Feng's purpose is nothing more than trying to trick me out of the dollhouse." Realizing that his little thoughts had been seen through, Sui-Feng had a look of unwillingness on his face at the moment. Although she really didn't want to admit it, what Senju Kusanai said just now was verbatim, and it hit her deepest thoughts. As if someone had exposed his shortcomings, Sui-Feng was so angry that his teeth were retching. But there was nothing he could do. And Senju Kusanai standing in the dollhouse is even more proud. "Captain Sui-Feng, I know you are in a hurry, but take it easy." 22 at exclamation mark at caret plus. "Since you are here to carry out the mission, you must be able to enter this dollhouse, right? Or, are you going to give up on Renluo this time?" Asking for flowers. Sui-Feng was overwhelmed by Senju Kusanai's question. "Although I really want to refute, but if I can't enter the dollhouse, I really can't get in touch with Wu Luangxi. Is this mission going to fail before it even starts?" When Sui-Feng was still mad alone, Senju Kusanai smiled coldly and mocked. "Fake ones are fake ones after all. The ability to do things is no way comparable to the real Captain Sui-Feng." It seemed to be an inadvertent complaint, but it hit Sui-Feng's most sensitive nerve. 0. As a spirit skeleton, the 3 words she hates most are counterfeit goods. However, Senju Kusanai directly said that she, the imposter, is not as capable as the real Sui-Feng. It was a double whammy. "Senju Kusanai, stand up and fight me if you have the ability." Hiding in a doll's house like a turtle, what's the deal with you? Facing Sui-Feng's ridicule, Senju Kusanai was not angry at all, and continued to complain like a joke. If it is the real Captain Sui-Feng, after receiving the task, he will definitely complete the task unscrupulously, and even make all sacrifices for the task. Compared to the real Sui-Feng, you fake is still too far away. Senju Kusanai's words hit Sui-Feng once again. However, facing Senju Kusanai's ridicule, Lingfeng is still very unconvinced. What Sui-Feng can do, I can do the same. I don't hesitate to sacrifice everything for the mission, and I also have it. Sui-Feng's expression was very appreciative, but such rhetoric was in his heart. "I'm waiting for your words." Chapter 311, How should I cooperate? Senju Kusanai smiled slightly, and asked with deep meaning, "If you can really have such awareness, that would be great. However, this kind of awareness is not just talk, it should be proved by practical actions." Senju Kusanai looked at Sui-Feng in front of him with a smile. Feeling Senju Kusanai's scorching gaze, Sui-Feng's eyes instantly dodged a little. "I don't know why, but every time I see the eyes of Senju Kusanai, I always have an inexplicable feeling, as if the other party can see through him with a single look. This feeling is very insecure." Looking at the confident Senju Starry Night, Sui-Feng received the 153 with killing intent all over his body, and asked calmly, "I have to complete this task. Tell me about your conditions." Seeing that Sui-Feng finally gave up resistance, Minutes Kusanai naturally would not miss the opportunity. "My condition is very simple. As long as you can swear allegiance to me, I can guarantee that Kujo Wangshi will be willing to go back with you." Hearing what Senju Kusanai said, not only Sui-Feng, but also the expressions of other people, especially in Ozomi Kujo just mentioned, "I finally escaped to the present world, but you want to hand me over?" Kujo Wangshi at this moment feels very monogatari. And Senju Kusanai didn't bother to explain this, looking straight at Sui-Feng, and asked again, "How?" "As long as you are willing to be loyal to me, Kujo Wangshi will go with you." "How do you decide?" Seeing Senju Kusanai ask again, it seems that he really wasn't joking. However, Sui-Feng hesitated for a while, but finally refused. "I, Sui-Feng, only devote my allegiance to Jingling Court. Protecting Jingling Court is my only duty. If I don't change my mind, I will never give my allegiance to anyone else." Hearing what Sui-Feng said, Senju Kusanai nodded quickly. Yes, that's right. Jingalingting will be my Senju Kusanai sooner or later. You swear to protect Jingalingting's belief and swear allegiance to me. Those two things don't conflict at all. What Senju Kusanai said now, Sui-Feng didn't understand at the moment. At this point in time, explaining too much to Sui-Feng actually won't play any role. As a newly promoted captain, Her age is relatively young in the entire Soul Society. The bloody battle thousands of years ago is probably very strange to her. You don't need to know so much, you just need me to help you complete the task and help you guard the jingling court. That's enough. Sui-Feng wanted to say something else, but Senju Kusanai interrupted her directly. Don't think I don't know your thoughts. You and your other spirit skeleton partners, your original intention is to protect Jinglingting. The reason why I obey Invincible as you owe now is entirely because I want to wait for the opportunity to destroy his body in one fell swoop. Uniagzu is your ultimate goal, isn't it? At this moment, Sui-Feng was so shocked that he couldn't speak. His big watery eyes stared straight at him. If it is said that Bankai, who can guess himself, did an investigation in advance, and found out that he is a counterfeit, it may be because of his super perceptual ability. However, at this moment, Senju Kusanai actually directly stated the ultimate plan of the spirit skeleton captains. You must know that this is definitely the biggest secret among them. If you want to be surprised, you must make a sudden move at a critical moment to be intentional. However, at this moment, Senju Kusanai directly punctured their thoughts, which means that they are now in a very embarrassing situation. Or Invincible may also know their plans. Thinking of this, Sui-Feng felt very powerless. Seeing Sui-Feng's worried face, Senju Kusanai smiled slightly and asked, as I said, as long as you are loyal to me, I will let you bring Kujo Wangshi back. Also, I will personally help you deal with Invincible. It is absolutely impossible for Uniagzu to be resurrected, even if the two of them are separated. The resurrected person will definitely not be Uniagzu. Knowing that Invincible and Kujo Nozomi share the same life, Senju Hoshiya naturally wants to diagnose their connection with each other. Perhaps because he noticed the sincerity on Senju Kusanai's face, Sui-Feng took a deep breath this time, his tone softened a little, and asked calmly, if I agree to your request, how will you defeat Invincible? You have to know his ability, but even us captains can't do anything about it. Faced with Sui-Feng's question, Landlord Starry Night is very interesting. 5.2 Kido, Captain Sui-Feng, don't you want to compete with me? Senju Kusanai is naturally not afraid of the competition, he is just afraid that his excessive force will attract the attention of other forces. For example, Liluka, the poisonous peak, is a member of the full manifestation technique. In addition, the masked army is also hiding in the real world and watching. Senju Kusanai doesn't want to provoke these people yet. However, facing Sui-Feng's invitation to fight, Senju Kusanai decided to punish her a little. Captain Sui-Feng, since you want to test my ability, how should I cooperate? Chapter 312. Do you like to humiliate me so much? After discovering that Senju Kusanai agreed to cooperate, Sui-Feng is also thinking about how to compare and test. However, at this moment, Senju Kusanai walked out of the dollhouse swaggeringly. It is also very simple to verify my strength. Fight with me, the low power palace has its own judgment. Senju Kusanai's reasoning is very simple, and Sui-Feng can understand it naturally. However, she still wants to take people back now, and she can't disrupt the plan because of these messy things. Now that you're out of the doll's house, let me see what you can do. Before the words fell, Sui-Feng directly attacked Senju Kusanai's position. Seeing Sui-Feng's attack, Senju Kusanai could only shake his head. It seems that you still don't understand the current situation. In today's world, all full-screen strength has the final say. I said I could help you defeat Uniagzu, but you didn't believe it at all. In this way, 05, to let you have a long memory, it is also necessary to arrange an education for you. After all, Senju Kusanai came directly in front of Sui-Feng, turning palms into knives, raising and lowering the knives directly. The energy emitted by her hand knives amazed other people around. Brother Senju, your strength is too strong. In Orihime and the others applauded directly. However, at this moment Sui-Feng is tense. What kind of speed is this? Even I couldn't see the movement clearly, and it appeared directly in front of me. Could it be Shunpo? Sui-Feng suspected at one point that Senju Kusanai had just used Shinigami Shunpo's technique, but immediately dismissed the idea. If it's Shunpo, then as she is also known for her stature, there's no reason why she can't see it, right? This is so strange. Seeing Senju Kusanai's hand raised and lowered with a knife, when he was about to slash at himself, Sui-Feng hit Shunpo directly and successfully avoided such a blow. However, Senju Kusanai didn't stop the attack immediately. The attack of spiritual power was thrown out of his hand, and he slashed directly to the ground. Boom! Accompanied by a muffled sound, a deep crack suddenly appeared. Seeing such a scene, everyone was surprised one after another. You must know that this is the apprentice of Karakura Town, so it is logically very hard. Not to mention just a simple hand knife, even a full blow from a top expert may not be able to exert any effect. But even so, Senju Kusanai's slash cut a ravine out of thin air. Sui-Feng, who had just avoided the attack, turned around and noticed how amazing the attack power Kusanai unleashed just now. I didn't expect that such a hard ground could be harmed by the hand knife like this, and it wasn't because I dodged fast enough. I'm afraid my head would be chopped off now. Senju Kusanai, you just said that you want me to be loyal to you, and you also mentioned many other considerations. Are you going to kill me with the attack just now? Facing Sui-Feng's coquettish anger, Senju Kusanai just smiled innocently. If I can't even deal with the level of attack just now, what use is it for me to have a subordinate like you? I have to say, what Senju Kusanai said is quite reasonable, but Sui-Feng just smiled lightly. But even so, you can't plan such a big event on such a day. There is still a long way to go to fully realize your goals. After some preaching words, Senju Kusanai saw the killing intent in Sui-Feng's eyes again. It seems that the hand knife I just hit stimulated this little girl's desire to win. Unexpectedly, there is such a terrifying energy in the seemingly delicate and thin body, which really makes people feel deeply moved. However, without waiting for Senju Kusanai to express his emotion, Sui-Feng took action directly. With Ryatsu's outburst, Sui-Feng shouted directly, "Instant!" Before the sound fell, the riotous Ryatsu tore Sui-Feng's coat in an instant. Clothes explode. Senju Kusanai saw this manual operation. Although he knew that Sui-Feng possessed the skill of instant opening, he didn't expect Sui-157 to burst his clothes. I have to say that the smooth, white and tender back looks very eye-catching, but the Ryatsu external release after instant opening enhancement is not accessible to everyone. Even the other members of the Goutai 13th Division have never seen this kind of secret technique. At this moment, Sui-Feng had a confident expression on his face. I admit that your speed just now is indeed fast enough. However, at this moment, I have been blessed by the instant opening, and the speed is absolutely beyond your imagination. Confusion on Senju Yoruichi's face. What's the difference? Hearing Senju Kusanai's question, Sui-Feng's expression became very speechless. Do you like humiliating me that much? Can't you really see the Ryatsu that burst out after the instant opening? Even if you are slow, you should be able to perceive such a huge Ryatsu outbreak. For Sui-Feng's words, Senju Kusanai nodded in recognition. Your Ryatsu does feel something, but nothing else. Chapter 313, Captain Sui-Feng, your weakness. You must know that Ryatsu and speed are not necessarily related, and it is normal for Senju Kusanai to be confused about the situation. Sui-Feng was full of dissatisfaction. You must know that this is her strongest physical explosion, and it can even increase the potential of her body several times. Whether it is speed or strength, they all show a geometric coefficient of growth. Senju Starry Night. Don't underestimate me. With a roar, Sui-Feng's whole body exploded in an instant, rushing towards Senju Kusanai's position. Its movement is like wind and lightning. Everyone could only see the trail of the huge Ryatsu forming in the air. It actually approached Senju Kusanai's position in an instant, and appeared behind Senju Kusanai in an instant. Stop looking down on people. Kill the enemy, says Yumbuchi. A ray of light flashed, and a black butterfly pattern instantly appeared on Senju Kusanai's arrow. After one hit, Sui-Feng is ready to take advantage of the victory to pursue a continuous two-hit combo, so as to achieve the effect of 2 hits to kill. You should know that in the state of instant opening, even if you make a second combo at the same position, the interval between them is only 0.0001 second. In the eyes of ordinary people, this definitely has the effect of killing with one blow. As long as one hit is successful, the success rate of the second combo is almost close to 99.99%. However, even if her movements are so fast, the interval between attacks is so short. But Senju Kusanai escaped the second attack at a critical moment. Finding that his shot missed, Sui-Feng instinctively opened the distance. Looking at the Senju Starry Night in front of him, Sui-Feng finally felt a little unbelievable. One must know that before this action, Sui-Feng had unlocked the limiter of the present world. In other words, the strength she has exploded now must be at the captain's level. The captain of the secret mobile team, who takes speed as his advantage, has nothing to do with an ordinary person. You must know that your attack interval is only a mere 0.0001 second, which can be said to be fleeting. In theory, few people should be able to respond in such a short period of time. It can be said that as long as the first blow can break the defense, the second blow can basically hit. However, Senju Kusanai counterattacked in such a short interval between attacks. Sui-Feng couldn't believe his eyes. Seeing Sui-Feng's surprised expression, Senju Kusanai smiled lightly. How is it? Don't you think it's amazing vertical bar? Seeing Senju Yoruichi's proud face, Sui-Feng was not convinced. It was just that you were lucky and just escaped my attack. Not so lucky this time. Before the words were finished, Sui-Feng directly used the effect of Shunpo to teleport to the back of Senju Kusanai, preparing to make up for the second attack at the position just stabbed. Once successful, the one-hit kill effect can be completed. However, at the moment when Sui-Feng was about to hit the shoulder, Senju Kusanai suddenly took a step back. His body was just a random side, and Sui-Feng's attack fell through the air. Because the movement was so fast, Sui-Feng's whole body threw itself directly on Senju Kusanai's body due to the change of inertia. And Senju Kusanai also grasped Sui-Feng's slender and delicate wrist. Honestly, I don't really like women who are too thin. However, the petite figure of our captain Sui-Feng makes people can't help but want to be bullied. It's really tasteless to eat, and it's a pity to discard it. 17. Facing Senju Kusanai's ridicule, Sui-Feng panicked, and then quickly broke free from the restraints and distanced himself. Sui-Feng separated the distance again, still looking at the butterfly pattern on Senju Kusanai's body just now. Just hit the same spot again and it's all over. Seeing Sui-Feng's focused expression, Senju Kusanai couldn't help but smile. Captain Sui-Feng, your ability is two-hit kill, which sounds very cool, and with your super high speed, the time interval between two consecutive attacks is even less than 0.0001 seconds. Ordinary people, it looks like a one-hit kill effect. However, if you can't attack twice in a row, then your attack target must be the location you attacked last time. It shouldn't be difficult to judge your next course of action based on your attack target. Sui-Feng was completely stunned, not knowing what to say. Senju Kusanai next to one, Hao Wang Hao, is also pursuing the victory. So, although the two-hit kill is your special ability of Zanpei Kuto, it has also become your defect in battle. Hearing what Senju Kusanai said, Sui-Feng became very nervous. This is indeed her flaw. In the face of ordinary people, even without Shikai, simply relying on speed can achieve a spike effect. However, if the opponent is an opponent of comparable strength, it will be difficult to hit the enemy even if Shikai cast Zanpei Kuto. Not to mention hitting the same place twice in a row. This is obviously unlikely. Unexpectedly, Senju Kusanai saw through his flaws all at once. Chapter 314, Direct Injection. Seeing the bewildered Sui-Feng in front of him, Senju Kusanai laughed. How? Are you convinced now? If you want to continue to test my strength, you can do Bankai. Don't be afraid of the consequences of Bankai, because your Bankai is like an ant in front of me. It can be destroyed with a flick of a finger. Hearing that Senju Kusanai said that his Bankai could be destroyed with a snap of his fingers, Sui-Feng suddenly lost his composure. Don't talk big. My Bankai is the strongest blow that claims to be a one-hit kill. If you must try, I don't mind smashing you to pieces. You must know that Sui-Feng's Jakuho Raikoban is capable of blowing half of Baragan's body into pieces, and after Baragan cast Decay, the strength of Jakuho Raikoban was greatly weakened. Otherwise, such a blow is likely to kill Baragan directly. It can be seen from this that Sui-Feng's words just now are definitely not just talking about it. However, Senju Starry Night does not care about 680 at all. Your Bankai is really powerful, but it's really not easy to hit your opponent. This time Senju Starry Night once again hit Sui-Feng's shortcoming. Indeed, Jakuho Raikoban's lethality is definitely one of the best in Soul Society, but it is very difficult to hit people in actual combat. If two hits kill an opponent that cannot be dealt with, its strength must be beyond the imagination of ordinary people. And the enemy that even Shikai Suzumbachi can't handle, the hulking Bankai, is even more helpless. Facing Senju Kusanai's ridicule, Sui-Feng wanted to refute, but finally remained silent. At this time, Senju Kusanai smiled lightly and said, I've shown speed and strength just now, you should know I can dodge your Bankai. However, since I want to use my strength to conquer you, I naturally cannot avoid it. Ufti, come on. Use your Bankai. I'll stand here and take it head on. As soon as Senju Kusanai said this, doubts appeared on Sui-Feng's face. Is this true? Senju Kusanai nodded. Anyway, you are not my opponent. I have no reason to lie to you with this lie. Thinking about it carefully, Kienzi Kusanai's words also made sense. After the fight just now, Sui-Feng also felt the strength gap between himself and Senju Kusanai. If it weren't for borrowing the power of Zanpei Kuto, Sui-Feng would have no way to confront Senju Kusanai head-on. With this thought in mind, Sui-Feng will no longer hold on to it. This is what you said, don't go back on your word when the time comes. Before the words fell, Sui-Feng directly held Zanpei Kuto in his hands, and immediately after that, a yellow light shot into the sky. The mighty Ryatsu blazes with thunderous light and riots, as if filling the entire world. Bankai. After a deafening Bankai spell, the sky became cloudy, and a golden thunderbolt fell from the sky, just falling on Sui-Feng's position. Almost at the same time, the position centered on Sui-Feng burst out with a very dazzling light, which made it impossible to look directly at. Jakuho Raikoban. As soon as the voice fell, all the changes just now dissipated in an instant, and Sui-Feng after Bankai showed up in front of everyone in a brand new form. Looking at the exaggeratedly large golden missile on Sui-Feng's arm, everyone sometimes gasped. Is this a Zanpei Kuto or a missile? You have to know that many years ago, the two cities next door had experienced the baptism of this kind of thing. You must know that the power of this thing is huge. Yeah. If this kind of thing explodes here, I'm afraid the whole Karakura town will be affected. Amid the fear of everyone, Sui-Feng also smiled coldly. Senju Kusanai, are you sure you want to confront my girlfriend Gongxian head-on? What kind of consequences will be caused? I can't guarantee. If you're scared now, there's still time. Just hand over the 9 rules, and I won't embarrass you. Seeing that he also has something that frightens Senju Starry Night, Suzumbachi floats away at once. However, Senju Kusanai didn't care at all, and said lightly, don't worry so much. Since you're already Bankai, just shoot it straight away. Seeing Senju Kusanai's attitude is so firm, Sui-Feng stopped talking nonsense. If that's the case, then don't blame me. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Sui-Feng aimed the warhead of Kfeng Gong Whip directly at Senju Kusanai's position. The golden bullet seems to be like the queen bee's tail needle. exuding an extremely powerful deterrent. Eat me with a blow. With a bang, Suzumbuchi shot Jikuho Raikoben straight away. Almost at the same time, the ear-shattering rumbling sound instantly resounded throughout the world. Seeing such a scene, everyone's face turned pale with fright. You must know that this is the power of a comparable nuclear bomb. Once it explodes, the consequences will be unimaginable. Is the whole Karakura town going to be buried with him? It's over, it's over, it's over. Chapter 315, I'm invincible. In the midst of everyone's emotion, Sui-Feng looked proudly at the Senju Starry Night in front of him. You must know that the reason for all this is because you look down on me. Those innocent people implicated by Senju Kusanai. If you want to blame it, blame this Senju Kusanai in front of you for being too pretending. For his Bankai, Sui-Feng is very confident. You must know that your Bankai is the strongest weapon known as a one-hit kill, and it is absolutely impossible for anyone to resist it head-on. Just when everyone was thinking about it, Jikuho Raikoben, known as the most destructive force, had already hit Senju Starry Night. In the next second, everyone was stunned. Their mouths were so long that Daquan couldn't speak, and they looked at everything not far away in surprise. The reason why everyone is so surprised is not because Jikuho Raikoben is too powerful, nor is it because of how destructive this Bankai has shown. The truth is quite the opposite. Jikuho Raikoben, who was supposed to destroy the world, unexpectedly fell into Kusanai's hands quietly after a while of Ryatsu's restlessness. At this moment, Senju Kusanai is holding the front end of the Suzumbuchi Thunder Whip with one hand. However, the nuclear explosion that should have occurred disappeared. How is this possible? My Jikuho Raikoben. What the hell have you done to my Jikuho Raikoben? Sui-Feng's state is very broken at the moment. I obviously used Jikuho Raikoben's one-hit kill, and the Ryatsu emptiness I felt in my body at this moment was the after-effect of the one-hit kill. However, his own Ryatsu has already been consumed, so it is useless to the Senju Starry Night in front of him. This simply broke through Sui-Feng's cognition. This is impossible. It's simply impossible. You must have done something to my Jikuho Raikoben. Facing the hysterical Sui-Feng, Senju Starry Night said aimlessly, you need to know the most basic truth that there are people and beyond. Your Bankai is really powerful, but you have to know that your own strength is invincible in heaven and earth. If you want to win in battle, you still need to think more about yourself. Senju Star Yoruichi was talking, holding the golden bullet of Jikuho Raikoben, and slowly approaching Sui-Feng's position. Feeling the approach of the Senju Starry Night, Sui-Feng originally wanted to pull away immediately, but after casting the previous Bankai, Sui-Feng at this moment was already very weak. Even if he wanted to dodge, he didn't have enough physical strength to get rid of Senju Kusanai's movements. Fortunately, Senju Starry Night did not intend to do anything excessive to Sui-Feng, but just handed over the Jikuho Raikoben in his hand. This is your thing, I'd better give it back to you. 11. This kind of thing is very dangerous, so don't throw it away in the future. After taking the Jikuho Raikoben from Senju Kusanai, Sui-Feng suddenly found that there was no Ryatsu fluctuation in it. How is this going? Where's my Ryatsu? Surprised, Sui-Feng found that Senju Kusanai's eyes became very strange. What happened to your eyes? Did you wear colored contact lenses? Surprised, Sui-Feng counted Senju Kusanai's eyes. There were 6 omo in them, and the pupils formed circles. It looked very strange. 0. Ask for flowers. When Senju Kusanai heard about these two, she was also very speechless. Rinnegan. 6 Gua Rinnegan. This is really not a cosmetic contact lens. His most tyrannical pupil technique was actually said to be colored pupils. Senju Kusanai feels that the little Sui-Feng in front of him actually has such a cute side. It seems that even though she has become the captain of the second team, she is still the little girl follower behind Shuin Yoruichi's ass in her heart. Originally thought that Sui-Feng would only reveal the side of the little girl in front of Yoruichi, but at this moment, he could see the side of the little girl. Senju Kusanai smiled subconsciously. Seeing Senju Kusanai's strange smile, Sui-Feng's expression was a little shy for a moment. I'm just curious about your eyes, nothing else. Having said that, Sui-Feng's expression became even more tense. Seeing Sui-Feng like this, Genji Kusanai couldn't make jokes anymore. Actually, this is my pupil technique. It can also be called ability. It's hard to explain to you for a while. All you need to remember is one thing. I'm invincible. Senju Kusanai's appearance is still arrogant and awe-inspiring, but at this moment Sui-Feng has to admit this. Senju Kusanai is really capable and proud, which he confirmed just now. Jikuho Raikoben. Sui-Feng stroking himself finally gave in. A yellow light flashed. Jikuho Raikoben in Bankai state finally turned into a short sword at the moment, and finally inserted into Sui-Feng's waist. After the turmoil just now, Kujo Wangshi finally saw the strength of Senju Kusanai. Chapter 316, Let you see how good I am. After knowing the true strength of Senju Kusanai, Kujo Nozomi heaved a sigh of relief. No wonder you can say such arrogant and condescending words. It seems that you are really powerful. After a short pause, Kujo Wangmi seems to have made a decision. If I follow your advice, is there really anything you can do to stop that person? The person Kujo Nozomi mentioned was, of course, Inabakajuazuo. One must know that Inabakajulangzuo's strength should not be underestimated, but Kianzi Xinai didn't take it seriously at all. Inabakajuazuo's target is you. As long as you cooperate with me to lure him out. 600. I'm confident I can knock him out. Senju Xinya was full of confidence when he spoke, but Kujo Nozomi's fingers clasped his arms tightly, as if he was still very nervous. Obviously a little uneasy. You must know that Inabakajuazuo's ability is beyond the imagination of ordinary people, not to mention that there are so many spirit skeleton captains to increase their strength. Although Mr. Senju is powerful, it seems that he is not sure of victory. Once the action fails, the consequences may be unimaginable. Kujo Wangmai's worries are not superfluous. At this moment Sui-Feng also came to Senju Xinai's side after taking back Bankai. Seeing everyone's eyes, Xinai felt that he had to show his strength. Actually, I didn't have to make such a trouble. It's just people blocking and killing Buddhas. Since you must be suspicious, then I can only show my strength. Speaking of this, Senju Xinai looked at Inu Orihime. Miss Orihime, you should know Kurosaki Epigo's house, right? Inu Orihime nodded. Kurosaki's home is not too far from me. I can take you there. At this moment, Kujo Nozomi's expression also jumped. Apparently, she had also heard of Kurosaki Epigo. After all, she originally planned to stay at Kurosaki Epigo's house when she came to this world. She thinks only Kurosaki Epigo can protect herself. This is a bit funny. A group of people came near Kurosaki Epigo's house, and Inu Orihime asked curiously, Brother Xinai, this is the home of classmate Kurosaki. Do you need me to knock on the door? Looking at the innocent Inu Orihime, Senju Xinai smiled slightly, shook his head and said, No, I'm not here to find Kurosaki Epigo anyway. In the middle of speaking, Senju Xinai looked at the shadow not far away. However, at the next moment, two figures suddenly descended from the sky and appeared in front of them all. When seeing these two figures, the corner of Kianzi Xinai's mouth twitched into a smile. You are indeed here. These two people are Alquiola and Yammy, who were sent by Aizen to monitor Kurosaki Epigo in the present world. Feeling the breath of Senju's starry night, Alquiola instantly became alert. You just locked on my breath before you met. Obviously you came to find me. Hearing Alquiola's words, Yammy became very surprised. What's the situation? Your consciousness means that they have already detected our breath, but they haven't been scared, are we? In Yammy's view, as Commando Espada, they have very strong strength. When normal people see them, the best thing to do is to run away. However, after Senju Xinai sensed their aura, he still dared to come to them. This approach is simply too stupid. Ha 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 ha. I thought the task of monitoring would be boring, but I didn't expect that someone who was not open-eyed would come to the door. My uncle can just move his muscles and bones. The huge Yammy is gearing up, looking eager to try. Facing such a huge giant, Sui-Feng, Kujo Wangmai, Inu Orihime and Neliel, the eyes of the four women were full of amazement. I didn't expect there to be such a huge monster in the world. Yammy heard the feelings of the girls, and instantly expressed a bit of disdain. This uncle is a symbol of strength. You must know that this uncle is one of the Espada. This is the affirmation of my strength by Master Aizen. Frog ha 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 ha. Yammy laughed wildly at the moment, but if he knew that his Master Aizen had become Senju Xinai's most loyal servant, he didn't know how he would react. It's just that Senju Xinai didn't intend to explain. After coming to Yammy, he smiled lightly. 1.0 The task Aizen gave you is to monitor and investigate. It might not be appropriate to alarm the target. How about this? We can transfer to another space, and have a hearty battle without being disturbed. How about it? Facing the challenge of Senju Starry Night, Yammy will naturally not be afraid. Brat, you'd better not play tricks with me. Otherwise I will tear you apart. Yammy uttered cruel words to himself, but before the words fell, the surrounding scenery changed unexpectedly. With Senju Starry Night's pupil technique, Yammy and everyone else were also transported to a different space. Chapter 317, Welcome to my world. Looking at the huge different space around them, the whole group of people all had shocked expressions. Although my ability can also achieve the effect of opening up space, the capacity of the alien space of Senju Starry Night is thousands of times that of mine. Liluka, the poisonous peak, was a little jealous. If her dollhouse can have such a large space, wouldn't the dollhouse be able to evolve into a doll world? In this way, more favorite things can be brought into the doll world. To know that he is the existence of number 3, Ryatsu is also among the best in the organization of full manifestation. Unexpectedly, even so, there is such a big gap with a Senju Starry Night in front of him. I actually tried to use the dollhouse to control Senju Xinai before. It's a bit ridiculous now that I think about it. Even if you entered your own dollhouse, you only need to carry out a wave of space teleportation to directly escape from control. It turns out that I have been the only one talking about myself. Thinking of this, Poison Peak Liluka was completely silent. Kujo 09 Wangshi looked at the different space in front of him, and fell into deep contemplation. You must know that Ryatsu is on par with Inabakajuazuo, especially after the combination of Shigure and Raikou. Moen's ability is beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Even so, With her powerful Ryatsu, she can only achieve the effect of smashing the space. And the Senju Starry Night in front of me has really created such a vast space. I'm not dreaming, am I? Is this also an illusion? Compared to Sui-Feng and Kujo-Momi who saw this different space for the first time, Niriel and Orihime were obviously calmer. Although Alquiola felt incredible, he didn't show it. The most shocking of them should be the big guy Yammy. The big man Yammy had never been exposed to this type of ability before, and suddenly saw someone who could open up a vast different space, and the huge head shell couldn't react for a while. What's happening here? Why has everything around me changed? Yammy looked at the surrounding situation, the CPU almost burned dry. At this moment, Senju Kusanai stood up and said with a smile, "Welcome to my world. Next, I will show everyone my strength." Before finishing speaking, Senju Kusanai looked at Yammy. "Yammy, I know that your ability after returning to the blade will be far greater than it is now. Why don't we waste time and get straight to the point? You don't have to be afraid of destroying anything in this space. Go ahead and show your destructive power." Senju Kusanai's gaze was indifferent, and he looked straight at Yammy. Under Senju Kusanai's provocation, Yammy was completely angry. "Unforgivable. You actually look down on me? Do you think my uncle is really number 10 Espada? Ha 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 ha. My uncle will show you what real power is." Accompanied by a roar that shook the sky, Yammy directly returned the blade. "Blow it up, wrathful beast." At the same time, a riotous Ryatsu erupted all over Yammy in an instant. Yammy, who was originally huge, suddenly burst into shape, and the whole person seemed to be several times bigger in an instant. Blessed by the extremely violent Ryatsu, that huge body is like a giant centipede, and the muscles around it also become abnormally swollen. However, the most worth mentioning is the number of the Espada. It turned from 10 to 0. "Ha ha ha, you dare to challenge my lord? Maybe my lord hasn't had time to introduce myself." "Me, Yammy Lago, number 0 Espada." Hearing that Yammy's Espada number turned out to be 0, Orihime expressed his shock. "You must know that the Noitra I met before is very powerful. But even so, his number is only 5. Not only that, but the grandpa with the crown is only number 2 Espada, and he is also a heaven-defying existence in terms of ability and strength. According to this logic, is the number 0 in front of him stronger than those people 067? Orihime couldn't imagine it. In fact, Senju Starry Night is also somewhat unclear about Yammy's Espada number. But it was also because of this that he pulled it to the decisive battle. Because of Senju Starry Night and even Yammy's attributes, as long as Yammy is infinitely angered, and with anger as bait, Yammy's power will skyrocket infinitely. In such an independent space, Senju Starry Night can irritate Yammy wantonly, so as to ensure the maximization of its power. The Millennium Bloody Battle is about to take place, and Senju Starry Night dare not be careless. At the very least, you have to find out what cards you can get in your hand. At this moment, Yammy's eyes were red, and he looked at Senju Kusanai's position angrily, and said with disdain, "Small human, why don't you respond? Are you frightened by the state of returning to the blade? It's too late to back down now." Yammy is gearing up, and the whole person is eager to try, as if he can launch an attack at any time. Chapter 318, Ants are Ants. Facing Yammy's eager attitude, Senju Kusanai didn't bother to say anything, and said with disdain, "Stop talking nonsense. You still can't hurt me based on your current state." While talking, Senju Star Yoruichi hooked his fingers in the direction of Yammy, and mocked, "Could it be that the brain is short of medical treatment because of the increase in body size? What are you doing standing there stupidly? Hurry up!" Seeing Senju Kusanai's provocative posture, Yammy couldn't help it. With the outburst of anger, Yammy doubled in size again. "Unforgivable, unforgivable." Amidst the roar, Yammy's huge arms descended from the sky, aiming at Senju Starry Night's position and directly hitting the ground. However, such a blow did not hit Senju Kusanai at all. Although the speed is not particularly slow, it is no different from the speed of a tortoise in front of me. You must know that Yammy's explosive power after returning to the blade is also very powerful, and it is definitely not a simple attack speed that can be summed up. Facing Senju Kusanai's disdain and provocation, Yammy seemed to go crazy, waving his arms and smashing down in turn. However, Senju Kusanai evaded in a calm manner. I don't know how long this situation lasted. Because Yammy has never hit Senju Starry Night, he is almost crazy at the moment. "This is impossible. This is impossible. How could it be impossible to hit all at once? Is this a hallucination? How could I be defeated by a human child?" Yammy's spirit was not good, and he was yelling. His anger almost reached the extreme. At this moment, Yammy's stature doubled again. "Unforgivable, unforgivable." Reminding Yammy, who doubled again, repeated such a sentence. He squeezed all of his arms and fell down instantly, right on the spot where Senju Kusanai was standing. Boom! The huge shockwave set off a burst of thick dust, and everything inside became very blurred. After discovering that Senju Kusanai was hit, all the girls who came along with him were all worried. "Master Senju, Brother Starry Night." Seeing that Yammy, who was as big as an ant, punched Senju Kusanai directly. This powerful punch is enough to break mountains and split gold and rocks. In particular, the huge shockwave that the aftermath disliked exudes a heart-pounding effect. However, In the next second, the smoke and dust dispersed, and Senju Starry Night suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Too weak, too weak. Is this tickling me? Such a big guy, but I didn't expect to be strong on the outside, and he doesn't even have the strength to beat people. It's ridiculous. After hearing Senju Kusanai's ridicule, the huge Yammy froze in place. You must know that the blow just now was his full blow. Unexpectedly, Senju Kusanai took over so lightly. Not only that, it seemed that he was going to lose his wife and lose his army. Seeing such a scene, Yammy paused slightly. Seeing that his attack was ineffective, and then he was ridiculed again, Yammy felt very angry. That monstrous anger seemed to fill every inch of his skin, and his entire body swelled up again. How dare you call me weak? You must know that my uncle's ability can evolve infinitely. You'll regret pissing me off in a moment. Ah ha 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 ha. Yammy came back to his senses and launched an attack on Senju Kusanai again. The successive attacks fell on the head and covered the face, and Senju Kusanai was able to find energy to fight back after evading. Facing such a huge monster in front of him, Senju Kusanai only needs to attack casually to hit him easily. Over the next few rounds, Yammy's attacks missed several times. However, every time the attack fails, a heavy price will be paid. At this moment, the original 12 legs have been lost in 7s and 80s, and even a section of the tail has been cut off. And as the battle continued, Yammy, who had been injured all the time, also continued to be incompetent and furious. With the last round, Yammy broke out completely with his finger broken. Inexcusable, unforgivable, accompanied by a roar that resounded through the world. Yammy's anger seemed to be a fire after detonation. Good Wang Zhao, the infinite anger in my heart seems to be able to swallow all the burning flames in the world. In the crimson burning flame, the Ryatsu of Yammy's entire body erupted completely. The awe-inspiring Ryatsu soared into the sky, and the red light enveloped the entire earth. The bloody Ryatsu that fell from the sky seems to come from a higher dimension, and under the washing, it can completely repaint everything it touches. And Yammy's huge body also took on a new look in this beam of spiritual light. The light faded, and the huge body that was originally reminded had been condensed into a black demon form. At this moment, the 4 sharp horns on the top of the head condense a group of flames from hell, and there are also a pair of big horns behind it, which spread out obliquely like the wings of a demon. Chapter 319, Evolve, Yammy. After seeing the changes in Yammy, the eyes of other people around were completely stunned. In such a short period of time, Yammy was able to achieve so many evolutions, both in strength and in shape, which can achieve changes visible to the naked eye. It really deserves to be number 0 Espada. Its strength is too amazing. At the same time, blood-red hair began to grow on the originally bald body, and the whole body was covered by the hair, and the dullness of hell burst out instantly. The whole looks even more breathtaking. This time, not only other people, but even Senju Starry Night and Ulquiola were slightly surprised by Yammy's new form. Although Ulquiola and Yammy are partners, he has never seen Yammy in this form. Although Senju Kusanai knew that Yammy could evolve infinitely, he still didn't expect such an obvious effect. Looking at Yammy, who is almost losing his mind at this moment, Senju Kusanai just nodded slightly to express his affirmation. Looking at it now, the strength seems to be a little passable, but in the end, City 400 is nothing more than a rampant reckless man. Although the battle between Shinigami and Gzu is a battle of Ryatsu, but facing the crushing of a higher dimension, if the strength of Ryatsu cannot transition from quantitative change to qualitative change, there is actually no way to break through the restrictions of the rule system and Kido system. In other words, even if Yammy's Ryatsu is far superior to Paragon or Stark, or even stronger than Aizen, as long as the qualitative change caused by the quantitative change has not been achieved, if it is not suppressed by a higher dimension, if you want to take over the indiscriminate aging and decay are basically impossible. Even if it is as strong as Senju Starry Night, it only needs to use the hungry Kido in the power of 6 paths to absorb this aging and decaying ability. On the one hand, this can also be regarded as a dimensionality reduction blow, and the Yammy in front of him is obviously not strong enough to this level. Facing Yammy's brand new form, Senju Kusanai ticked his fingers as calmly as before, and said, "The ability has improved slightly, but it is still like an ant in my eyes. Come on, come over here, let me see your growth." As soon as Senju Kusanai's voice fell, the extremely angry Yammy burst into an astonishing Ryatsu in an instant. "Boy, don't underestimate me. The consequences of angering me are serious." Amidst the roar, Yammy's attack pierced straight down, and a Koku, a pair of ghosts from the flames of hell, smashed towards Kienki and Kusanai's position. The awe-inspiring attack directly aroused the sound of the wind, the piercing sound of piercing through the sky and the earth, and the power of thunder instantly distorted the surrounding space. Such a tyrannical attack seemed to lock Senju Kusanai's position, and the distorted space made it impossible for Senju Kusanai to dodge. Feeling such a level of power, Kienzi Kusanai finally had a gratified smile. This is probably the precursor of the transition from quantitative change to qualitative change. In addition to emotion, Senju Kusanai naturally did not dare to underestimate the enemy. Faced with such a terrifying blow, Senju Kusanai launched the 6-hook Jade Rinnegan for the first time. It has to be said that Yammy, who has turned into a demon form, is not only a breakthrough in strength and destructive power, but also has, unexpected strengthening of speed. After Senju Kusanai realized that something was wrong, he activated Liluka Rinnegan at the first time, and saw that he launched the truth-seeking ball before the attack reached him. Stop looking down on people. My uncle's strength is invincible. With your simple defense skills, do you want to defend against my uncle's attack? It's ridiculous. At the same time, Yammy's thunderous attack just hit Senju Starry Knight's dark truth-seeking ball. Next second, boom. The huge collision produced an extremely powerful coercion, and the energy waves produced an extremely terrifying explosion. The aftermath scattered and swept across, and the terrifying coercion shocked people's hearts. Even Yammy himself was knocked back tens of meters by this oppressive shockwave. Looking at the grand scene he created, Yammy fell into a complacent minister. Ah ha 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 ha. You dared to speak so boldly just now, but you never thought that even an attack like mine would be impossible to dodge. Let's see if you dare to be arrogant this time. Seeing such an exaggerated effect, Zongman's face was also worried. Master Senju, Brother Starry Night. In the worried eyes of the women, the smoke and dust began to gradually fade away. However, Senju Kusanai is still standing in place. The surrounding ground is deeply sunken, and only a round place under his feet is intact. Looking at such a weird picture, Yammy couldn't believe his eyes. How can this be? After receiving my frontal blow, it was not affected at all? This is impossible. In fact, Yammy's attack power is indeed very tyrannical. Senju Kusanai also used Truth-Seeking Ball at a critical moment and then used Shinryo Tenzing to offset the 10 attack steps of Koji. You must know that compared to Ryatsu, the Shinra Tenjin in the power of 6 paths can be regarded as a dimensionality reduction blow. Even so, Yammy's attack directly smashed the Truth-Seeking Ball. This is something Senju Kusanai did not expect. Chapter 320, Hungry Kido. Let's shock. Thanks to the existence of the Truth-Seeking Ball, Shinryo Tenzing won the cushion of the world and weakened the strength of the impact, so that he could withstand such a blow head-on intact. After the smoke cleared, Senju Kusanai looked at Yammy coldly, and said lightly, "That's it? No way, no way. That's it tilde, huh? That's it? You are too weak." Senju Kusanai's tone can clearly hear the elements of yin and yang, and the time is mocking and pulling. Hearing Senju Starry Knight's provocation, Yammy was so angry that he was going to smoke. Unforgivable, unforgivable. In the rising anger, the red hair on Yammy's body exploded, surrounded by black lightning. Under extreme anger, the flames of hell began to ignite all over Yammy's body. In the smelting of the purgatory fire, Yammy's body was reduced again. The huge body that was originally as tall as a building turned out to be just like a burly ordinary person at this moment. The only difference is that the flames emanating from Yammy's body turned into strange patterns like blood tattoos at this moment. Unforgivable, unforgivable. At this moment, Yammy's pupils turned into a deep black color, and the whole person muttered and repeated this sentence. Apparently he lost his sanity in an instant. Seeing Yammy in such a state, Senju Kusanai shook his head helplessly. It seems that the strength has been raised to an extremely terrifying level, and even Yammy's tyrannical number 0 Espada's body can't bear it. From this point of view, such power is indeed too terrifying. Looking at the distorted space around him, Senju Kusanai's forehead also began to ooze cold sweat. Although the other party lost his mind, but relying solely on instinct to fight, the terrifying power it exerted is definitely beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Even if it was as strong as Senju Starry Night, he didn't dare to take such a step from the front. If you want to feel such a blow in person, then you can only use that method. Reincarnation clone technique. With a light shout, Kienzi Kusanai instantly split into 2 identical clones. Likewise, each clone also inherits a pair of Rinnegans. It is worth mentioning that the Rinnegans of the 2 avatars are red and purple, and blue and purple respectively, while Senju Starry Knight's main body is red and blue. Such 3 Rinnegan Senju Starry Knights in Liluka form stand in 3 directions respectively. Yammy, who attacked instinctively, paused instinctively after seeing his opponent suddenly become 3. Unforgivable, unforgivable. In the murmur, Yammy's opportunity is that he has already locked the target. Seeing the clone of red-purple Rinnegan directly attacking him behind him. After a short period of strength gathering, a terrifying sorrow formed in Yammy's mouth. It's just that the color has changed from the original color to a dull golden red. Feeling the destructive energy, everyone was shocked again. Although the distance is very far away, Orihime at this moment opened a 3-day shield for everyone for safety reasons. After Senju Starry Knight's training, Orihime's 3-day shield has evolved significantly. At this moment, it has been able to completely wrap everyone in it. Task for flowers. You must know that this is the ability of absolute rejection, and like the ability of absolute repair, it is a rule that exists higher than the existing dimension. At this moment, Yammy's Sora launched directly, and the devastating shockwave directly engulfed Senju Kusanai's clone. Since the perception of the avatar and the main body are connected, so Senju Kusanai also felt the powerful destructive power of such dry strikes. However, In the nick of time, Senju Kusanai absorbed a lot of Ryatsu through the hungry Kido. You must know that after the sick Nagato absorbed the attack of the tailed beast chakra through the hungry Kido, he changed from a white sick state to a red-haired full-body Uzumaki Nagato. However, after Senju Kusanai used the hungry Kido to absorb most of the Ryatsu Insuro, the entire avatar also began to become extremely violent, and the pair of renegades also turned into a blood-red color. Although it is the power in a split body, Senju Kusanai can empathize with the terror of its power. As expected of a Yammy with infinite evolution, she can achieve such a degree of evolution. After all, even the hungry Kido displayed by the avatar cannot be absorbed immediately. In fact, Senju Starry Night really wants to see the effect of Yammy's continued evolution. However, the current Yammy has lost his mind and basically lost the space for communication. However, if he wanted to provoke him through physical blows, he was afraid that Yammy's body would not be able to withstand the continued strong force. You must know that this level has already begun to make his mind blurred. He doesn't want such a powerful angry beast to explode and die at this stage. After having this idea, another clone of Senju Kusanai moved directly behind Yammy. Chapter 321, Block It, Black Wing Demon. After being absorbed by the hungry Kido, Yammy in the state of Helgorify and instantly released the state of returning blade. The originally fragmented body once again became the state of a burly human. However, Senju Kusanai's avatar couldn't bear the violent anger at this moment, and unexpectedly exploded. Fortunately, the connection was cut off in time before all this happened, otherwise Kusanai's body would also be backlashed by the power of anger. However, after Yammy was dealt with, Alquiola's eyes were tightly wrinkled, and Senju Kusanai was locked in his breath. It seems that as long as Senju Kusanai continues to kill Yammy, he will immediately stop him with 803. However, Senju Kusanai laughed. Alquiola, don't be so nervous, we are not enemies. The reason why there is such a battle today, I just want to see how many catties my subordinates have. Senju Kusanai's words made him confused, and Alquiola asked with doubts in his eyes, subordinate? I don't understand what you mean, who is whose subordinate? Facing the bewildered Alquiola, Renminitz Kusanai smiled slightly. You've been on missions in this world and don't know what happened to Commando. Aizen has pledged allegiance to me at this moment. As Aizen's subordinates, you are naturally my subordinates. Is that understandable? After Senju Starry Night explained, Alquiola still had a look of disbelief. Master Aizen would swear allegiance to someone else? According to Alashiola's impression, Aizen, who has always had his eyes above the top, will never be inferior to others. And Senju Kusanai in front of him looks only in his 20s, and even said that he subdued Aizen. This is obviously a bit weird. As if seeing Alquiola's doubts, Senju Kusanai smiled helplessly. Maybe you still don't believe it now, but you have seen the strength I just showed, right? If you fight in person, are you confident that you can defeat me? Rinnegan stared at Alquiola in front of him without blinking. The coercion from Rinnegan, the strongest people technique, made it difficult for Alquiola to breathe every day. I didn't expect that just a look of suppression could exert such a shocking coercion. In connection with the battle with Yammy just now, Alquiola also knew that he was not an opponent. Seeing Alashiola's hesitant look, Kid Starry Night smiled lightly. As I said, Aizen has sworn allegiance to me. If you don't believe me, I can prove it from the side. There is a question that I really want to confirm. Your returning blade should have 2 sections, right? Senju Kusanai's words made Alquiola defenseless. Seeing Alquiola's expression was a bit astonished, Senju Kusanai continued to ask, since you can unlock the 2nd stage of returning to the edge on your own, is there a 3rd stage of returning to the edge? This was originally only Senju Kusanai's conjecture. You must know that returning to the blade can only be regarded as a certain path of evolution in the final analysis. When other Urankars have not opened the 2nd stage returning edge, they can be subconsciously liberated by forcing the effect of hypnosis to achieve the effect of 2-stage returning to the blade. If I have already awakened the effect of the 2nd stage of returning edge, can I force hypnosis to perform the 3rd stage of returning edge? At this moment, Senju Starry Night directly casts the complete hypnosis effect of Lugua Rinnegan. From a subconscious point of view, Alquiola is forced to perform the 3rd returning edge. Under the influence of hypnosis, Alquiola also burst out a powerful Ryatsu instantly. Block it, Black Wing Demon. Accompanied by the liberation language, Alquiola's Ryatsu erupted instantly, and in the next second it returned to the state of Rankar's previous body. The pair of black wings are extremely huge, enough to cover the sky and the sun, and the tentacles on the head have begun to become slender, and the whole looks really like a devil. However, everything is not over yet. After performing the first return to the blade, Alquiola directly broke out into the 2nd stage of the return of the blade in the form of a black monster. Originally only half wings, now also turned into a full body of devil's wings. The original bone helmet armor on the head also fell off, and the length of the devil's horn also began to increase significantly. As if feeling Alquiola's 2nd stage return, Yammy regained consciousness and woke up at this moment. 1.1 Feeling Alashiola's overwhelming Ryatsu, Yammy's mood at the moment is extremely complicated. You must know that with his infinite evolution ability, He can indeed reach such a height through the accumulation of anger. However, it takes time to accumulate anger. In real combat, one may not have the time to grow, and one might be instantly killed by the opponent. Compared with his own infinite growth, Aluciola's second stage return to the blade in front of him is a faster and more direct evolution. Xiao, what's going on with you? I haven't even seen this form before. Chapter 322, as expected of you. Since Aluciola didn't want to expose his true strength, he had always displayed it in the form of the first return to the blade. Even Aizen doesn't know the effect of the second stage returning blade. At this moment, Yammy has really refreshed his cognition. Not only Yammy, even the former third Espada Nelly was very surprised. Although I know that Espada can perform double return, I didn't expect Aluciola to have such a powerful Ryatsu. 7 inches. After a sigh of emotion, Aluciola slowly opened his eyes, looking at Senju Kusanai with cold eyes. However, under everyone's gaze, Aluciola's Ryatsu quickly restrained himself. The originally huge Ryatsu was instantly absorbed into the body. Just when everyone was puzzled, a layer of green flames began to glow on Aluciola's feet. It was the underworld flames from the underworld. At this moment, the range of the underworld flames expanded rapidly, and all the feathers on his body faded away after being baptized by the flames. In the next 14 seconds, the form of a fallen angel exuding dark green flames appeared in front of everyone. The oppressive Ryatsu seems to be a mountain oppressing everyone's heads, and the pressure like a mountain seems to be able to bind people's souls. It makes people breathless. Feeling extremely suffocated, Senju Starry Night directly removed Rinnegan's hypnosis effect. It was at this time that Aluciola finally realized what had just happened. 3 stages of returning to the blade? Is it actually the 3 stages of returning to the blade that I have forgotten? Although he knew it was Senju Kusanai's method, Aluciola didn't expect that he could perform the third return. With such a state, Aluciola looked at Senju Kusanai's eyes very curiously. I know this is your method, but I still can't figure it out. You actually help the enemy perform a 3-stage return. Are you not afraid of my threat? Facing Aluciola's question, Senju Kusanai just laughed. Aluciola, let me reiterate from now on, we are not enemies. You are my capable subordinate. Of course it is no problem to help you improve your strength. Having said that, Senju Kusanai's eyes suddenly sank, and he asked in a cold tone, one more thing, don't you really think that your strength can pose a threat to me? If that's the case, then you're dead wrong. While speaking, Kusanai directly burst out the powerful coercion of Lugua Rinnegan. You must know that this is the strength of dimensionality reduction strikes. Even if Aluciola has evolved into the form of a fallen angel at this moment, it still cannot be compared with Senju Starry Night's Lugua Rinnegan. You must know the power of this pupil technique, but it can control the sacred tree that swallows the whole world. In addition, the ability of the space system can shuttle in various worlds. After absorbing the energy of the world every time, you can control the space of this world. The space mastered by Senju Starry Night is also the world that this pair of Rinnegans once devoured. After devouring so many worlds, Lugua Rinnegan's ability will naturally surpass that of Aluciola's fallen angel form. Feeling the incomparable coercion of Senju Kusanai, Xianqian's incomparably arrogant arrogance was instantly suppressed. The existence that was originally incomprehensible has finally gained a deeper understanding at this moment. It's such a strong coercion, even in the 3rd stage of returning to the blade. Can't it reach such a height? Aluciola looked at the Senju Starry Night in front of him, and couldn't help asking, Master Senju, thank you for breaking the limit for me and achieving the strength of the 3rd stage of returning to the blade. However, there is one thing I really can't figure out. How does Master Senju know about the ability that even I myself have forgotten? Aluciola asked this sole question, and Senju Kusanai smiled lightly. This is actually not a secret. As long as the strength reaches a certain bottleneck, the strength will have the conditions to evolve. Since you can naturally break through to the 2nd stage of returning to the edge by yourself, it means that your strength has reached the level of the 2nd stage of returning to the edge at 920. On this basis, you can also live up to the conditions of the 3 stages of returning to the edge. That is to say, when a strength is at its peak in the 2nd stage of returning to the edge, it can naturally break through to the level of the 3rd stage of returning to the edge. After receiving Senju Starry Night's explanation, Aluciola also seemed to be enlightened. Indeed, the 2nd stage of returning to the edge is also a breakthrough on the basis of the 1st stage of returning to the edge, reaching a new height, which is no different from evolution. Aluciola first expressed his affirmation, and then asked again, since there are 3 stages of returning to the blade now, are there still 4 stages of returning to the edge? After all, the space for evolution is unlimited. As long as the conditions can meet the requirements of evolution, then further evolution can be carried out. Senju Kusanai looked at Aluciola in front of him with satisfaction, and said with a smile, as expected of you, the ability to infer other cases from one instance is truly incredible. That's not bad at all. Chapter 323, It's not in vain if you come. Senju Starry Night affirmed Aluciola, then looked forward with deep eyes, smiled lightly, and said, 3 stages of returning to the blade is just a name, and its meaning is nothing but the 3rd evolution of returning to the blade. 17. As long as you can accumulate the conditions to continue to evolve after the third evolution, then the fourth stage of returning to the blade will follow. Senju Kusanai's statement is not deceitful, and it is true that Alquiola needs to accumulate enough strength to continue to evolve. This is why continuous evolution is not possible. If everything is done in a hurry, the effect that can be achieved will only be like that of Yammy, who cannot bear the pressure of evolution. The body is the capital, and we cannot overdraw the body's tolerance limit to unrestrained evolution. Otherwise, it can only be a victim of it. Alquiola can still figure this out. As if feeling the strangeness of other people, Alquiola also immediately withdrew the returning blade state. The suffocating zero pressure instantly dissipated. The people who were oppressed to the point of suffocation just now breathed a sigh of relief. Feeling the fresh air around, it's like a rear awning. This strength is too terrifying. This is a strength that I have never seen before. Sui-Feng panted heavily, still reeling from the scene just now. However, at this moment Kujo Nozomi finally felt the power of Senju Starry Night. After the battle with Yammy, and the opening of Alukiola's three-stage returning blade, all of this was beyond her original cognition. Senju Kusanai, if it were you, maybe you could really stop that person. Seeing Kujo Wangmai's tone loosened, Senju Kusanai finally felt the display of strength this time, and it should not have come in vain. After everything calmed down, Alquiola brought Yammy to Senju Starry Night. Mr. Senju, thank you for your guidance this time, which has benefited me a lot. Sir is a great talent. His strength is unpredictable. There is absolutely no need to deceive me, a small character who is not popular. Since Sir said it was Master Raisin's order, then Yammy and I set off for Commando immediately. Although Yammy still couldn't figure out the reason, Alquiola had already said so, so he naturally had to listen to his partner's opinion. Accompanied by Alquiola's swipe into the void, a black cavity was torn out in midair instantly. Through the black cavity, it leads to the Commando. When parting, Alquiola turned around and said goodbye. I hope we can meet again one day. Senju Kusanai nodded and said with a smile, there will be, and this day will not be far away. After sending Alquiola away, Senju Starry Night intends to put away the effect of Rinnegan. Use the Rinnegan to teleport them to Karakura Town as well. After finally returning to Karakura Town, Sui-Feng breathed a sigh of relief, his legs limp on the ground in a butterfly posture. This is simply too terrifying. I didn't expect that there are still people in the world who can surpass the strength of the captain. With a lesson from last time, although Sui-Feng knows that Senju Kusanai's strength is better than his own. However, even so, she never thought that the man in front of her could not possess such a terrifying power zone. Just relying on the abilities of the two people just now, their cultivation strength is definitely far beyond the captain level, but they are all played by Senju Kusanai. The most frightening thing is that Senju Kusanai doesn't seem to be giving full play. This is really scary. At this moment, there was a knock on the door of Liluka, the poisoner speak. You must know that this is her dollhouse, not an ordinary room, and most people shouldn't see this doll's house. What's the situation? Could it be that one of Jinjo Kugo and the others knocked on the door? If it's Jinjo Kugo, surely he shouldn't be ignorant of his abilities, right? Could it be an enemy? Anyway, without my permission, outsiders can't enter the dollhouse. Thinking of this, with this skeptical attitude, Poison Peak Liluka opened the door of her house. It turned out to be Hidekuro Tsukishima. Poison Peak Liluka first expressed panic and astonishment, but then she forgot why she had such an expression. Senju Kusanai frowned slightly after seeing Hidekuro Tsukishima. Who are you? Tsukishima Hidekuro's expression was a bit gloomy, and he replied calmly, I'm Tsukishima Hidekuro, the cousin of Poison Peak Liluka. Liluka must have mentioned me often, right? Senju Kusanai heard the words, and there were indeed various pictures in the mind of Poison Peak Liluka sharing with herself Hidekuro Tsukishima's cousin. However, Senju Kusanai feels that everything is not that simple. Although he does have this memory in his mind, he also knows Shima Hidekuro's ability 1000 minutes Kusanai. Omniscience, the book of the end. The ability is to chop the soul of a person through a medium, and in this way, the skill clip into existence can be used. This is a function similar to adding bookmarks. Chapter 324, Moon Island. Uninvited guest. Of course, there are fundamental differences between the two. The latter is the effect of chopping the soul, and the memory of the chopped person should be written through Zanpei Kuto, which is concretized by the full manifestation technique. In this way, it is even possible to change the past or future of the person who was chopped off. We must know that Kurosaki Epigo was taken away by Yuhabach all his power back then, or that Tsukishima changed Kurosaki Epigo's memory through this method, transmitting Epigo's past without destroying Tenza Zangetsu's future to him, thereby changing Epigo's past and reversing the future destroyed by Yuhabach. This will give Orihime a chance to repair Epigo's Tenza Zangetsu. It can be seen that the strength of the island is still very difficult. If you didn't know Tsukishima's abilities in advance, you might really be deceived by Tsukishima's acting skills. However, Senju Kusanai at this moment knows Tsukishima Hidekuro's ability like the back of his hand. Although I feel that the relationship between Tsukishima Hidekuro and 837 Poison Peak Liluka and even himself is very close at this moment. However, Senju Kusanai always feels that this matter is not easy. If it is with Tsukishima Hidakuro's ability, it is still very easy to cast the full manifestation on himself. Especially Poison Peak Liluka, it is very likely that Tsukishima Hidaku's memory has been changed by Corridor. If I remember correctly, Hidakuro Tsukishima and Kugo Jinjo planned this conspiracy together. The purpose is to seize the power of Kurosaki Yakugo. From this point of view, his appearance should be consistent with that of Poison Peak Liluka. It's all about controlling a new Orihime so he can put a limit on Kurosaki Yakugo. After thinking of this, Senju Kusanai roughly guessed the situation in front of him. Since we are Liluka's cousin, we should all be considered ourselves. Liluka, why don't you invite BGBJ, cousin in? After some ideological struggle, Senju Kusanai finally decided not to reveal it for the time being. With Senju Starry Night's reminder, Poison Peak Liluka felt a little strange, but finally invited Hidakuro Tsukishima. I allow you to come in. With Poison Peak Liluka's permission, Tsukishima Hidakuro entered the dollhouse smoothly. However, at this moment, Kuro noticed the existence of Sui-Feng. Shinigami? Why does this Shinigami look weird? Hidakuro Tsukishima, who has never been in contact with the spirit bones, naturally would not know that the Shinigami in front of him turned out to be a soul transformed through the spirit bones. Naturally, they didn't know that Sui-Feng in front of him was actually the captain of the 13th Division of Jingalingting Court. In addition, Tsukishima's gaze shifted to Nellie. For some reason, he suddenly felt a bit of disgust from Nellie's body. It's really unbelievable that he is obviously a delicate young lady, but he would have such an obvious disgusting feeling. As everyone knows, Nellie in front of her is also in existence whose strength is equal to that of the captain. She used to be the third espada, and one of the few Menos Grand who has reached the Vasto Lord level. It is precisely because of the power of Xu that the subconscious resistance in Zhilang's heart has been caused. After all, the power of full Manjutsu is also about the same as the power of Shinigami. Senju, don't we have important things to do? It seems that there is no time to reminisce about the past, right? Kujo Wangshi frowned slightly, reminding him from the side. Senju Kusanai naturally knew what she meant. You don't have to worry about this. Inaba Rosa still has some time to publish the anomalies here. There is a more interesting thing to do in front of me. It is better to finish the work here before starting. Hearing the conversation between Ozomi Kujo and Hoshiya Senju, Hidakuro Tsukishima also became alarmed. What's the situation? Are you going out to do business now? Senju Kusanai smiled slightly. I'm not in a hurry for the time being. Let me tell you about your purpose this time. Senju's starry night clothes are watching the show, and his eyes are fixed on Hidakuro Tsukishima. But the latter smiled slightly, and said belatedly, I came here this time to see how my cousin Liluka is preparing. After all, there are VIPs at home who need to be entertained, so we can't neglect them. Although Senju Starry Night knew their purpose, they just wanted to join forces and design to frame Kurosaki Yakugo. However, he was too lazy to meddle in this business. Looking at Kurosaki Yakugo in front of him, Tsukishima Hidakuro also sensed something was wrong. Since you still have things to do, I'll take my leave first. Just as he was about to get up and leave, Kienzi Kusanai blocked Tsukishima Hidato's way. Accompanied by Lugaudama Rinnegan's illusion, Hidakuro Tsukishima has been under the illusion without knowing it. However, Tsukishima Hidakuro himself did not notice his changes. It was just a brief moment of absence, and Shima Hidakuro quickly regained consciousness. I won't bother you, you can do your work first. Unknowingly, Tsukishima Hidakuro, who was under the illusion, escaped from the dollhouse in a hurry. Chapter 325, God Trademark Beyond Reach. Looking at Hidakuro Tsukishima's fleeing back, Poison Peak Liluka's expression was very bewildered. What's happening here? Did something happen? The others basically looked puzzled. Seeing everyone's bewildered expressions, Senju Kusanai calmly changed the subject. My cousin may have thought of some things to deal with temporarily, so let's leave them alone for the time being. Let's continue with our business first. While talking, Senju stared at Nozomi Kujo, and asked in a gentle tone, Miss Kujo no mommy, you and Inaba Rosa have a very special connection. If it was you, it should be easy to lock the other party's position. Kujo Wangshi's fingers clasped his arms subconsciously, twitched. It can only be judged roughly. While speaking, the tone was obviously a little unconfident. It's right to think about it carefully. If you can locate it very accurately, then you don't need to use Sui-Feng's power to come to the world. If I can bring you back to Soul Society, shouldn't I be able to locate you more accurately? Hearing Senju Starry Night's question, Kujo Nozomi heaved a sigh of relief and nodded in affirmation. If I can get to the Soul Society, I should be able to lock his position. With Kujo Nozomi's affirmation, Senju Kusanai finally made a decision. It's better to take the initiative to attack than to sit on the sidelines. We're leaving for the Soul Society right now. I want to see what ability Inaba has, that he can control so many spirit skeleton captains. Thinking of this, Senju Kusanai looked at Orihime. This time you will wait for us in Karakura town first. We have more important things to do. After experiencing so many things, 10 minutes Kusanai basically accumulated enough power Now it seems to be able to compete with the Invisible Empire. However, what Senju Kusanai wants is far more than that. He wants to take advantage of the invasion of the Invisible Empire to show his strength, so that he can successfully conquer the entire Soul Society. Although he is not interested in the Lord of the Three Realms, at least he should avoid any worries. Otherwise, a random person will destroy the world. Senju Kusanai is afraid that one day he will be shot. This time, let me go alone with Kujo Wangshi, and Sui-Feng will pretend to escort us. In this way, we can use our tactics and find the position of Inobakaja Uo smoothly. After explaining about Karakura Town, Senju Kusanai took Nelly Eel's arm. Miss Orihime, after intensive training, your current ability should be able to repair the damage on Miss Lu's head, right? Looking at Nelly Eel's broken mask, Orihime showed a troubled expression. I can only try as much as I can. As soon as the words fell, Dunshunlu arose from the sky in an instant. Shunsura and Xia surrounded Nelly Eel's head respectively, and then Orihime's liberation word sounded. Shunsura and Xia. The two heavens returned to the shield. I reject. With the release of Jifangu, Shunsura and Xia instantly opened a golden shield of light. Dunshunlu's ability is rejected by Vientian, which is an ability that violates the realm of gods. Its rule setting is higher than the highest level known now, and the ability of Shuangshan Gishian is to reject all bad effects in the shield, reject all damage in the shield, so that the damage that has already been received can return to the original state when it was not damaged. This callback-like ability can indeed be regarded as a violation of the setting of the realm of gods. With the fading of the fluorescence, Nelly Eel's mask really became intact, and almost at the same time, because Nelly Eel repaired the damage caused by the mask, the original damage was returned to the state before the damage. As a result, the degradation caused by the damage of the mask is no longer valid. The Ajucha's form, which was originally an antelope, has returned to the human form of Vaster Lord. Seeing such a change in Nelly Elu, Ren Minutes Xinai didn't feel a little regretful. Oh, it was okay to try it out. But now I'm afraid I won't have the chance. Seeing Senju Starry Knight's regret, Nelly Eel looked puzzled. What experiment? What didn't stand a chance? Seeing Nelly Eel's cute face, Senju Xinai smiled. Remember what I asked you earlier? If a human and a horse are pregnant, will the baby be in a human belly or the horse's belly? When recalling this question, Niluelu blushed instantly. However, before he could say anything, Sui-Feng at the side replied bluntly, "What's so curious about that? Which tummy the baby will be in depends on which tummy you sow the seed in. Even if you want to plant seeds in people's stomachs, sometimes I'm afraid it's beyond my reach." When Sui-Feng spoke, his face was calm, as if he was talking about a very ordinary thing. But at this moment Nelly Eel and Orihime felt flushed. Even Senju Kusanai felt very speechless. God trademark can't reach the soil. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this. And join my Patreon if you want to support me, link in the description. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.